If you want to see a massively uncut 4-hour version of this video with everything I can't show you on YouTube or Spotify, go to patreon.com/traplawross where you can get that for just $2. Over the last few years, if it comes to the genre of UK rap or UK drill, there's one name that's been getting mentioned all over the world.
Central Cee and
Central Cee.
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 Central Cee has taken his career to a high that most UK rappers have for years dreamed of reaching. He's the latest British rapper standing on the shoulders of other English spitters that have tried and arguably failed to crack the American music scene. The likes of Tiny Temper, Skepta, Dizzy Rascal, all household names in the UK that have gained some motion in the US rap game, but still never broke through to the mainstream. It seemed like in 2025, Central Cee might just be the one to do it. After his blockbuster collaboration with legendary Atlanta rapper Lil Baby, Band for Band, hitting number 18 on the US Billboard chart, pretty much becoming the most successful UK rap single in American chart history, beating out Skepta's record with his A$AP Rocky collab Praise the Lord, and Giggs' collabs with Drake. At this point, it became clear that Central Cee was the best shot that a UK rapper ever had at breaking through to the American market. But Central Cee has a big problem when it comes to getting taken seriously by the mainstream American music market. You see, American rap is all about authenticity. In many ways, who you are and where you come from is a lot more important than what you're actually saying into the microphone. Rap, drill, and gangster rap has always been about who's the realest, who has the realest backstory, who came up the toughest, who really got it out the mud and went through the serious situations that made that rapper worth listening to. In the world of violent rap music that praises the shooters and killers from King Von to Lil Durk in Chicago, or Foolio and Young and Ace in Jacksonville, or even the likes of D-Thang and K Flock in the Bronx, nowadays, the rappers who garner the most attention are those who really survived the deadly streets of their city and live to tell the tale through their hard-hitting music. This is an important factor in modern-day success in the rap game, but when it comes to Central Cee, he's managed to maintain a level of mystique that has left a lot of people guessing. His music is unmistakably UK drill. The aggressive drums and rolling hi-hats, inspired by Chicago drill music and blended with British dance beats, became the soundtrack to street violence in Central Cee's native London. UK drill became that music that the gangsters throw on in the car when they're really spinning the block. But over time, with more mainstream acts like Central Cee and Ice Spice commercializing the sound, now those same beats that would have inspired a gang member in London to slide on their ops, nowadays is inspiring girls to twerk at festivals and nightclubs. Central Cee became rich and famous off the back of the most violent subgenre of music that the UK has ever seen. But in the midst of that fact, one huge question remains. Was Central Cee ever really in the streets drilling and trapping like his music would suggest? Or really, is he just a poser using the aesthetic and sound of urban gang violence to get rich and export a sound that he doesn't even really own to America for his own personal gain? Was Central Cee really about that life, or did he simply see an opportunity to ride a trend started by real street figures putting on this persona for clout and surrounding himself with demons purely for his image? Well, in this video, we're going to answer that question once and for all, and the truth might just shock you. As while Central Cee really does come from one of the most notorious hoods in West London, the real and most serious gangsters in his area took issue with him repping the ends for fashion in his music. And when he got famous, it seemed that for his protection and for his image, he began surrounding himself with members of one of the most infamous gangs in West London. But the unintended consequence of that was that it made him and his friends an even bigger target for their ops, as the enemies of this gang would now begin to see Central Cee and his people as their hood trophies. And what unfolded next saw one of the oldest and most iconic gang wars in UK drill history reignited, as three of West London's most popping rappers suddenly found themselves as the faces of three of the most vicious gangs in the city. Central Cee, Digga D, and Freddo would be battling it out for supremacy in the streets as well as on the music charts, with stabbings, shootings, and murders all playing out around the music as lyrics and social media pages would drip feed fans clues about this secret gang war taking place in the city of London. So today we're going to take a closer look at the deadly war in West London that kickstarted Central Cee's career, the gang members that formed around Central Cee to protect him, and the deadly violence that played out before and after he found fame. And we're going to work out once and for all whether Central Cee was really about that life all along, or if he was actually being used and extorted by a dangerous gang like a UK version of 6ix9ine.
Sir Walter Elliott, Minister of Health, came to open the new housing estate at the White City.
White City was a kind of a legendary place to me as a kid.
Growing up in White City Estate, there was a lot of crime, there was a lot of the older lot of people, they were misleading a lot of the younger lot.
And it's gone through various periods of decline, really. It's gone downwards.
The favorite thing with White City for me is, okay, I can't choose, but I love the apartment. So in Sweden we have so high living standards, and this really reflects that as well. And also the concierge, I feel safe.
1 million people poured into Notting Hill for Europe's biggest street festival. At 9 o'clock, the violence erupted.
Youth violence and youth gangs is a tremendous problem, and there has been an unacceptable tide of teenage bloodshed flowing through the streets of our great capital city.
West London, they're doing some great things in the music scene, man.
Trust me, 100%.
We've got Central Cee.
Yeah.
And I'm predicting that this guy right here, star in the making. It's my guy, Central Cee.
I get to sleep at night, knowing mum is that broke on that note. I was really sleeping up in dance hall.
A lot of people might think it's biased, but I'm keeping it real. Digga's a road G. Central Cee has never been a road G.
This is a complete different version of myself. Like, nothing had happened for me yet. I didn't have any emotion, I had no money, nothing. Like,
if a man's talking about trapping, I'm not gonna be like, oh, he's capping, because I know he was trapping, because he was driven from my bedroom.
Probably the hottest rapper out the UK right now. Probably not, probably either. Central Cee in the building, how you feeling, man?
So you're probably one of the biggest people out of London. You got a huge fan base. How long what makes you come to America right now? What you got, business trip? What are you here for?
No, we're just here, we're chilling really. We're not really working too hard right now. Yeah, just taking the seat back, put my feet up.
Is he a couple? I don't know, bro. This is my guy, man. You don't know, I went to school with him.
At the start of year 8, I got kicked out. I got caught with weed. And I got arrested in school.
Free my Digga D still.
Today, a judge banned 5 young drill artists from performing or uploading songs that incite violence.
Everyone thinks I'm just a violent animal when it's not that.
Hello, bro. You see what I'm saying about f***ing nerves, bro? Suck your mama, man. I got a CBO.
There was an alleged incident where Digga D had Chef Central Cee's brother outside of a supermarket.
Central's bro got picked up. Fredo's clothes got ripped up.
He said, Central Cee, Oakley, you watch your brother get got. Why didn't you move wild then? Weren't gonna talk on this until you started putting 100 ops in your vids.
DCGM always capping on me, bro. The only time I see them, they ran from me.
Anytime I see them, man, they run from me. What are you talking about?
I'm Fredo, why you leaving the whip?
See my man, Central Cee, what do you think about his mixtape that released? Your honest opinion.
I ain't listen to it, bro.
Setting up shop like a Costco trip. Surrender your flag cause you're not no crip. Don't be angry at me that you got no bins.
The man should grab him and make him line up Central Cee, man.
That's bad.
No hands. So are you with Deshane or what? What did Deshane?
An aspiring rapper has been murdered in an ambush just yards from his home in West London. 23-year-old Fernando Johnson was found seriously injured by police. He later died at the scene.
I remember when I got the news, that bro was gone.
West London. The part of London where Central Cee's story begins seems like an unusual place for a drill rapper, because according to the statistics, this isn't just the richest area in London or the UK, but the entire of Europe. It would then be easy to think that there must be no gangs in West London, unless it's a Freemason gang started by some young trust fund drillers named Oliver, Archibald and Alfred. However, as I discussed in my video about the popular UK drill rapper and aspiring serial killer Suspect from Active Gang in Camden, London is one of those places where the mega rich and powerful can live in their £1,000,000 mansions and still be just a stone's throw away from some of the poorest and most dangerous hoods in the city. And nowhere is this contrast arguably more extreme than in West London, where the star of our current story hails from. However, the key areas for this story are even further west, including the suburb of Shepherd's Bush, where Central Cee grew up, and another area known as Ladbroke Grove, where Central's biggest rival Digga D hails from. Directly up north from Notting Hill, there's also the infamous Mozart estate, located in West Kilburn, where another top UK drill rapper Fredo also hails from. Now, the exact location in Shepherd's Bush where UK drill fans think Central Cee hails from is the White City estate, or at least he's likely from the larger district of White City, which forms the northern part of Shepherd's Bush. Apparently, this is also where infamous London fashion designer Clint, who founded the brand Cortez, hails from too. Now, Central Cee is known to rep a particular building in the western edge of the White City district called Burley Tower, showcasing it in several music videos, including the music music video for the mega hit Doja. So it's easy to see that no matter how rich the West End of London appears to be, there are still enclaves of poverty and segregation, particularly within many council estates. And it's within these enclaves of poverty and segregation that also gangs have existed for a long time. For example, in the early 90s, when crack was becoming a hot button issue in the UK, there were so-called yardie gangs of Caribbean origin operating in West London too. And in the late 90s, after many refugees had arrived from the former Yugoslavia, a Serbian gang was causing concerns in Notting Hill with drug dealing, extortion and racketeering. Later on in 2007, a gang intelligence document by Scotland Yard's Special Crime Directorate was leaked, which at the time suggested there was 257 gangs in London, 18 of them operating in West, with gangs like Westbourne Park Mandem, Ladbroke Grove Mandem, Latimer Road Mandem, the Edward Woods Boys, the Bush Mandem and the Becklow Mandem, likely being from around the Shepherd's Bush and Notting Hill areas based on their names alone. A particularly large gang from West London appeared at the time, going by the name MDP, or Money Drugs Power, or Merc, or Murdered MP. This gang seemingly operated in numerous areas of the town like Acton, the districts of Ealing and West Ealing, and also Shepherd's Bush, as one former member would tell the Evening Standard newspaper in 2012. In fact, in 2007, 5 teenage members of the MDP, 3 of them from Shepherd's Bush, would fatally attack a 16-year-old by the name of Kojo Yenga with knives and baseball bats in Hammersmith Grove near Shepherd's Bush, while a group of girls would cheer them on. Friends of Kojo would later tell a newspaper how he might have been killed as part of an initiation ritual to the gang, claiming that MDP only allowed in members who had stabbed somebody. 2 of the boys would eventually end up getting 15 years for murder, while the rest would get 10 years for manslaughter. That same year, the Acton branch of the same gang would carry out an identical deadly attack on a 22-year-old university student, Yasim Abdirahman, with some of the culprits reportedly also belonging to a gang called FDA, or F the Authorities, with both MDP and FDA members also participating in the so-called road rap phenomenon at the time, dropping early UK versions of gangster rap before drill became a thing. But because of the increasing youth violence in London, in 2007, the London Metropolitan Police, aka the Met, would begin keeping a special database of all of the teenage killing victims. And the following year, they would also tell the media about their own gang statistics, stating that they were aware of only 171 gangs operating in the city, one of these being a West London gang called the SD Crew, which was not mentioned on Scotland Yard's list, with all of this likely pointing to the fact that most youth street gangs in London were very loose in formation and started and ended in a pretty fast phase. However, surprisingly, still in 2018, during a particularly deadly year in the London gang wars, news would report how notorious leaders of the MDP had been arrested in numerous raids following a murder spree, with the police discovering numerous guns and drugs, including a Scorpion submachine gun and 2 kilograms of crack. This particular gang then seemingly having been active in West London for over a decade. But coming into the 2010s, the gang problem would continue to be highlighted by the media, with one 2013 article noting how 124 youths had been killed since 2007 when the Met actually begun keeping their database. 2/3 of the victims having been killed by stabbing and 1/5 by shooting, whilst almost 40% of the killings had been flagged as officially gang-related. The article would also mention that parts of West London were the only exception where there wasn't a gang problem, these likely being the areas closest to the Central. But during the very early 2010s, there were also some road rappers trying to make their way in Shepherd's Bush, with very stereotypically British-sounding artist names, such as Don Tantrum, Dirts, Hollow Slugs, and Ryder Tiggs, but it doesn't seem that any of these artists were really able to break through with the music. Meanwhile, the so-called county lines drug trafficking, a hot-button issue of recent years where gangs travel from large cities like London to smaller towns to sell drugs, was already seemingly taking shape by 2013, when a gang from Shepherd's Bush called the Bush Boys would reportedly travel to the town of Basildon to deal crack and heroin to the local residents. Around that same time, a new gang began making noise in Shepherd's Bush itself. This gang was known as OBY, or Original Bush Youngers. OBY would partake in the UK rap scene, which around this time was beginning to also be heavily influenced by Chicago drill, with one particularly active rapper from the gang being known as Bush Boy Ryder, or later Big Boss Ryder.
Any bigger that I see, I ain't ramping on your estate. That's a mad thing. Obi White West Dog, that's a mad thing.
Ryder would seemingly drop numerous songs and music videos around the early to mid 2010s. Another early rapper from the gang who would then begin to gain some real traction in the new UK drill scene was Ryder's cousin, Creeps Savage, later known as Sav 12.
Cave and tits come free, leave you in the grave. And just remember that I don't play games and I've never been a stunter, that's not me. You can't come to my blocks with your moist G's. My oldest won't pet to rinse a couple teeth. Let off 3-4 shells at your soft team. Think I'm joking, my oldest got the chrome thing.
Surprisingly though, some youths from Shepherd's Bush were also seemingly cool with a gang from around Ladbroke Grove, which at the time was known as P Block. The P seemingly standing for Portobello Road or estates like Portobello Court or Powis Court, the latter being Digga D's old stomping grounds. These youths from Shepherd's Bush and Ladbroke Grove would even allegedly have an alliance together called 916, with the name of the alliance possibly coming from dividing the postcode of Ladbroke Grove, which is W11, with the postcode of Shepherd's Bush, which is W12. And as funny as that sounds, some people repping 916 on the music side were rappers like Johnny 5, whose music videos from the mid-2010s would include cameos from a young Digga, R Loud, and K Slav, later known as Loose One, who would do the classic song Drillings on Drillings with Digga D in 2016. However, during the latter part of the 2010s, something would go wrong between Shepherd's Bush and Ladbroke Grove, breaking the friendships and alliances and forming a deep rivalry between the two, after which the Ladbroke Grove gang would become known as 1011, the name this time formed around the postcodes of W10 and W11 around Ladbroke Grove. Sav12 would later describe to the famous UK music engineer and YouTuber Fumes the Engineer why this breakup happened, implying a generational divide being the main reason.
Where did everything start from? Man heard that everyone was friends. 10, 11, the 12, and all of a sudden, getting splashed, videos on up blocks, and man's just thinking, wow, where did the friends go?
Them youths there, they're like their own batch in their area, you get me? Certain things was happening, not with them, but with other youths from their areas, you get me? And then boom, one time, they was rolling with the Bush youths, they went to one team, one set, one event. Certain man just weren't hearing it, you get me? Like man were trying to vouch for them, saying they're cool, they're not involved in the beef. Certain man were just saying that, like they're not hearing it. So it's kind of like,
so it's basically one person just decided to split the whole,
like
split the sea.
Obviously,
like,
I'm not gonna say like
there.
I'm not gonna say everyone was cool with them being cool with some of the youngers, because not everyone was, you get me? But he said it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
okay.
1011 would begin to be heavily repped in music by guys like Digga D, Savo, Horrid One, and numerous others, and they would eventually change their name to CGM, an acronym which has several meanings, but one of them likely being Certified Grove Members. The youth from Shepherd's Bush, on the other hand, would eventually begin to rep several different sets known as 12 World or 12 Anti, repped on the music side by guys like Sav, 12, and S1, who was getting some major exposure during the late 2010s. However, as we'll discuss later, 12 World would get into some controversy and seemingly stop existing a few years ago, with both rappers seemingly disappearing from the UK drill scene. 12 Anti, on the other hand, would seemingly become active, at least on the music side somewhat later, starting at around 2018, with artists like Little Catty, Box 12, S2 Saucy, and Fdot, a close friend of Central Cee's. The only one of these older sets still being active then is 12 Anti, while newer sets have since popped up from the same White City area, such as WCE, with these sets then becoming strongly affiliated with Central Cee after his blow up in the UK drill scene around 2020. But 2020 was by no means just the start of Central Cee's rapping journey, which goes back over a decade at this point. So now that we know a bit about the area that he hails from, let's take a closer look at the man himself, learning about Central's childhood and early experiences in Shepherd's Bush, and eventually his connections, if any, to the West London criminal underworld. Because if Cee's music is anything to go by, he was knee-deep in the roads of West London, but the reality behind the music is much more dark and complicated. Central Cee was born Oakley Neil Caesar Sue on the 4th of June 1998. In an interview with The Guardian, Central Cee revealed that his mother actually grew up in a well-off family, even going to a boarding school. However, in the mid-1990s, at the age of 15, she would be financially cut off by her parents after meeting and starting a relationship with Central's dad, a hustler, apparently against the parents' wishes. Now, when it comes to family, there's been endless debates over Central's racial makeup, and it's something that he has sidestepped as much as possible.
Bro, just what's her ethnicity, bro? I just want to know, because I don't know what's her ethnicity.
Neither do I, bro. I don't know ethnicity.
Well, the truth is, he actually had a Guyanese father with Chinese ancestry and an English mother. Guyana being a small country located in the northeast of South America, right next to Venezuela, and England being that little island over there in Europe. Now, in some ways, being racially ambiguous in this globalized world we're living in these days can actually be an asset in the entertainment industry. The same way many people have said The Rock has had such a wide appeal because he could kind of pass for a few different races, and as a result, he's relatable to a lot of groups. While this is something that certainly worked in Cee's favor, naturally, in the black-dominated world of hip-hop music, authenticity to your roots is key. But for Cee, being born in Ladbroke Grove, located in West London, set him up with a natural connection to London's Afro-Caribbean community, as the annual Notting Hill Carnival in the area is a yearly event event celebrating the vibrant Caribbean culture in London, but it's also, unfortunately, a yearly magnet for knife-wielding UK drillers who often bring their beasts to the streets of West London for the annual street festival, which I've sometimes referred to as the Stab Olympics. Now, we'll be taking a closer look at some of the more infamous knife clashes at Notting Hill Carnival when we get deeper into the story as the key players grow up. But talking with Blue Mag, Central would actually say that he rarely missed the carnival growing up, going constantly and calling it something that had a massive influence on him socially and musically, an influence that he'd elaborate on later in his No Jumper interview.
So there definitely was some musical influence though. West London as well, being the home of like Notting Hill Carnival. There's a lot. So like West London is like a very like ripe area for like music and I don't know what you wanna call it, black music or whatever.
Right.
Because like Notting Hill Carnival is right there. There's a lot of like Caribbean influence in the area.
But the relationship between his mother and father, which had started under difficult circumstances, was sadly not meant to last. As C would explain that between 2005 and 2006, his parents would split up when he was just 7 years old, at which point his mother would move him and his two younger brothers away from Ladbroke Grove to nearby Shepherd's Bush, with another half-brother that was living elsewhere. Only 5 minutes away from Ladbroke Grove, Shepherd's Bush also had rich cultural ties to reggae, jazz, dance and rap music. But anyway, the separation of C's parents was really a defining moment in his life. He would tell Vogue that they didn't have much growing up, but following the split, his mother would raise them alone, and he would begin subconsciously taking on her hardships too. This made him feel responsible for making enough money to support her and the family, something that would ultimately lead him towards music, but also at the time, making moves in the streets. C would first dabble in writing music in 2006 at around 8 years old, mainly for therapeutic purposes, turning to poetry as a mean to cope with the overwhelming emotions and stress brought on by the drastic change in his family dynamics. It was something that his mother actually encouraged him to do. He was going through a lot during this time. After his mother and father's separation, his father would actually become homeless and started living out of a van. On the rare occasions that Sench saw his father, it often involved him and his brothers riding around in the van with music blasting or visiting their cousins. And it was during these rare moments with his father that Sench and his brothers would actually rap to each other in the back of the van, with C later hinting as his father actually being wild and crazy on lyrics of his song Molly. Sench would share with Complex that these moments spent jamming to reggae, dancehall, garage, house and hip hop with his father and his brothers was actually the start of his love for music, also confirming this while speaking to Adam22 on No Jumper.
My dad used to play a lot of music around me when we would be around him. My mum not so much.
All in, Sench grew up under some unfortunate circumstances. On the track Gang Biz from his 2021 album Wild West, Central Cee would recount the struggles that he was facing as a youth. Raised by a single mother after his parents separated when he was only 7, he and his younger brothers would struggle, eventually turning to crime and selling drugs to make ends meet. As time went on, he would evolve from writing poetry to straight rap music. In an interview with Complex, he recalled writing bars all the way back in 2010 when he was around 12 years old, going back and forth with his brother trying to impress him. This all while Cee was attending the Chelsea Academy in London. Chelsea Academy in West London is actually the very same school attended by fellow West London drill legend Digga D, with C actually being 2 years older than Digga. This is something that Digga would confirm in an Instagram live when listening and rapping along to Central Cee's song Loading.
This is my guy, man. You didn't know, I went to school with him.
However, Digga D would get kicked out of that school in year 8.
I went to school, I got kicked out in year 8, blood. Started year 8.
And we'll be getting deeper into why Digga D was kicked out of school later in the video, but for now let's stick with Sench. Talking to Vice, Central Cee would explain that he mostly kept to himself during his time in school, describing himself as a naughty kid with a temper. And speaking to XXL, he would add that he only used to get in a bit of trouble at school, but always kept his head down and was kinda cool and popular. But throughout his time at the Chelsea Academy, Cee wanted to focus on making music and didn't really care about his grades. And unlike Digga, Cee would remain in that school until he was 16. And it seems like Sench even finished school and attended prom with his first girlfriend. But in 2012, at around the age of 14, a friend would take him to the studio for the first time, inspiring him to actually pursue a career in music. He would channel his experiences listening to old school hip hop in his dad's van on the weekends and evenings into his lyrics, with references to some of the artists that he was listening to and inspired by, like Tupac, Biggie, G-Unit, Wu-Tang Clan, and MF Doom. Speaking with XXL, Sench also mentioned that when he first started recording in 2012, he was heavily influenced by UK MCs like Skepta, JME, and the whole grime scene. From here, Central Cee decided to try and take the first steps in a full-blown music career, and for the next 7 years, from 2014, Central Cee would make music, trying all kinds of different sounds to get his career off the ground, but he was struggling to get any motion. And according to him, at this point, to make money, he had turned to selling what he called party drugs to support his dreams and his family, while his career hadn't actually taken off yet. The supposed drug dealer arc is a big part of Central Cee's story and artistic identity, but it's also something that's been scrutinized and debated. Many people have tried to deeply analyze Central Cee's involvement in the streets to try and discern if he was really about that life. Cee himself has been careful not to incriminate himself too specifically specifically when it comes to how he made money in the past, with many wondering if this is because he's trying to keep it G and not snitch on himself, or if in fact this is actually an effort to sidestep the difficult questions about whether he was ever in the streets at all. In an interview with Vice, they asked C about the fact that he often raps how he doesn't do fraud, asking him how he made his money, with C telling Vice that he did odd jobs and joking that he made a bit of money doing an apprenticeship for the pharmaceuticals industry, an obvious reference to drug dealing. C has referenced his drug dealing past in a guarded way in most of his mainstream interviews. His tagline for his 2023 Guardian interview was "From dealing drugs to having #1 hits," and the article saw him comparing his drug dealing stint to working a regular job, and he explained that in Shepherd's Bush, you can hear drug lines ringing constantly and make 2,000 quid a day even as a kid. C would nearly speak openly about his time as a drug dealer in his No Jumper interview, but quickly backtracked, realizing he might be incriminating himself.
It occurs to me watching these like old videos of you freestyling about selling drugs that you probably were actually selling drugs at the time.
When? Years back?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not now.
Yeah. Whatever I had said, yeah. Don't want to incriminate myself too tough.
But like most rappers, despite being tight-lipped in interviews, when it comes to song lyrics, C speaks with a lot more openness and confidence about being a so-called trapper. With songs like Molly and Pinging, C outright claims to have been selling Molly, MDMA, or ecstasy, and bragging that he was the reason that the parties would turn, and how he spent a whopping 5 years in the trap house. C would rap on Pinging about his home being searched by police and his mother being mad about the situation, and bagging up cocaine using lottery ticket slips, a common move by broke drug dealers in the UK who can't afford plastic baggies, so they resort to making origami ones out of free, unfilled lottery ticket slips. And also on the 2022 track 8 Ball, he would literally list his menu of marijuana, ecstasy, Valium, cocaine, and Xanax as just some of the drugs that he was slinging at the time. However, despite all of the claims of being a drug dealer, Central Cee's street credentials have often been brought into question. Even in his Guardian article where he spoke on dealing drugs, he kind of backtracked and said that it was really his brothers and friends' stories that he was telling. There's been endless debates on Reddit about whether or not he was ever really trapping, with the community generally leaning towards no. However, beyond drug dealing, as far as we know, Central Cee never really got into the gang lifestyle to the extent that maybe Digga D did. However, some Reddit posts circulate affirming that people have it wrong when they say that Central isn't from the streets, pointing out his apparent right-hand man is actually a feared gangster from Shepherd's Bush, known as YG. Now, there's been a years-long beef that's gone on between two West London gangs, 12 World and 1011, which we'll get into later. But even the ops of Central Cee's friends would cast doubt on his street credentials. For example, in an interview on The Tremendous Show with UKL, on Striker from CGM, formerly known as 1011, mentioned that Digga D was indeed in the streets, but Central Cee was not.
You know what it is? A lot of people might think it's biased, but I'm keeping it real. Digga's a road youth. Central Cee has never been a road youth, bro.
Striker would then reveal that Central Cee actually used to be a runner for drug dealers, but not the dealer himself.
This Central Cee youth used to drug for man's brethren, bro. He used to be a runner.
But he would then kind of backtrack, saying that he can't say for sure that Central Cee is capping when he raps about trapping, because C was indeed running drugs for Striker's friends.
So look, if a man's talking about trapping, I'm not gonna be like, oh, he's capping, because I know he was trapping because he was jugging for my brethren, bro. That man was sending you OT.
What do you mean he was jugging for your brethren?
I'm not gonna talk too much, but he was jugging for man's brethren, and he was jugging for certain youths. He was going.
Your brethren's put him on.
Yeah, he was jugging for certain youths, innit? That's how I know who this youth was.
When asked what Central Cee meant by saying that he got the party turned in songs, Striker would respond saying that he couldn't speak on what Central's doing after being a runner.
I don't know. I'm not gonna discredit his thing. I don't know what he's done after that, but I know that there was a stage where he was jugging for man's brethren, right? He was going O, and he was doing that. He was
actually going O.
He would even give the year 2014 to be the approximate time that Central Cee was running drugs and going OT or out of town as part of County Line's drug dealing operations.
He's actually going O.
Yeah, he talks about going O, bro.
What, nose ring days? This is nose ring.
It must have been nose ring days, isn't it?
Nose piercing and ponytail days. He's going O.
Yeah, probably before that. Either before, I don't know when all I remember is seeing that video. I don't know if it was, I'm just trying to think the year this was. This might have been like, is it 014? Around them type of time?
Yeah.
So whatever he was doing then, yeah, bro, he was jugging.
At the end of the day, the debate about whether or not Central Cee was a drug dealer or gangster still hasn't been settled. With no known criminal record or street CV to speak of, it's not entirely clear if Central Cee is really drawing on his own experience or fabricating a backstory that will be alluring to his fans. But one thing is for sure though, while Central Cee was growing up, flirting with the trap in Shepherd's Bush, back in Ladbroke Grove, where Central was from originally, one person who had built up a fearsome street CV of his own was his old schoolmate Digga D, who from his teenage years would find himself on the front lines of a deadly beef between his area Ladbroke Grove and the area Central Cee had moved to, Shepherd's Bush, with the deadly war playing out on the streets of West London in the form of broad day stabbings, shootings, and murders, with Digga D rapping all about it as he went along, his gang terrorizing West London so badly they were not only put in prison but also banned from making music. Digga D was born June the 29th, 2000 as Reese Angelo Emile Herbert to a Jamaican mother and a Barbadian father. His heritage is something that he would touch on when speaking to Armani on his Members Only Network channel in 2022, saying that he identifies much more with his Jamaican roots.
Country? Yeah. Jamaica.
Full Jamaican?
No.
Oh, what's the other?
I just sound Jamaican, innit?
What's the other part?
Barbados.
Okay, like Hunch and that. Like they're half Bayesian and that, but they don't claim it.
Yeah, so just, yeah, man.
So you're just claiming your yard man thing?
Just a Jamaica thing still.
Say.
You see, unlike Central Cee, who claimed his Jamaican influences that came from Summer's whining at the Notting Hill Carnival, Digga D is really a Jamaican yardman who is proud of his authentic roots. Raised by his mother, interestingly, Digga would end up moving from place to place in what was essentially a childhood tour of notorious gang blocks, before settling on the area that he would claim as his own. His troublesome childhood saw him relocating multiple times, starting in Paddington, moving to Harrow Road, then to South Kilburn, and finally settling in Ladbroke Grove, a place that would shape his formative years. Ladbroke Grove being the same place that Central Cee was born before moving to nearby Shepherd's Bush. The inequality in the area was stark, and Digga D was certainly on the rough side of that imbalance, spending his early years being raised in a council flat by his mother. But throughout all the moving, he would always attend school in Ladbroke Grove. In a 2022 interview with Cracked magazine, Digga shared his lifelong passion for music, showing family videos that depicted him at just 3 years old, already vibing to music with a close connection to his culture like Jamaican bashment and dancehall artists like Vybz Kartel, as well as reggae and even American rappers like 50 Cent. When he spoke to Armani, he would actually cite his UK-born Jamaican mother and her family as being an early cultural and musical influence on him.
Did you have like a Jamaican influence growing up? Like, because I feel like in your music and the way you talk and that, bit of yard talk and that.
Yeah, my family, innit?
Yeah.
Grew up with my mum, innit? My mum's side.
Yeah.
All Jamaican.
Okay. Was she born here or in Jamaica?
Yeah, here.
Okay.
Digga would attend the St. Thomas Primary School on Appleford Road in Ladbroke Grove, where he met personal friend and notable 1011 CGM member M Scum. As his interest in music grew, in 2009, he would even rap on stage in a battle rap at the Royal Albert Hall when he was just 9 years old. Digga's family would later move to 3rd Avenue in Queen's Park on the Mozart estate, home to the Harrow Road Boys gang and his future enemy Fredo. But despite living there, Digga would maintain loyalty to the area that he was going to school in Ladbroke Grove. He would speak on this on the intro track of his 2022 album Naughty by Nature, explaining that he lived across from Fredo and how he didn't respect Fredo's gang, the Harrow Road Boys, and he instead looked up to their ops, SSK from South Kilburn. On the same track, Digga recalled how he and the now deceased HRB member Stutz, aka Wu, used to be friends during their school years, often playing football together. However, due to him joining 1011 or CGM and Stutz joining the Harrow Road Boys, they would later become enemies to the point where Digga would rap that he would be planning to kill him on sight, and later dissing Wu extensively after his unsolved murder. He would also reveal on the same track that at the young age of just 11, he started moving packs, and by the time he was moving in with his grandmother at 11 or 12 years old, he would move in with a decent amount of tree and even some digital scales to his name, selling amnesia out of his grandmother's house and sneaking in girls late at night. He would also explain the moment when tragedy struck, when his grandmother was diagnosed with cancer when he was just around 11 years old, eventually passing away. Shortly after this, he would have to move back in with his mother. In the summer of 2011, Digga's days would begin by taking the 328 bus to Grove and going to the Harrow Youth Club after school, where he would meet and spend time with his two closest friends, notable 1011 CGM members, brothers Sav O, aka J Sav, and Horrid One, aka Huncho. Digga and his friends would later become part of the Ladbroke Grove gang turned drill group 1011, which eventually reformed as rap group CGM. But before then, they would record music together at the Harrow Club, which happened to have an old recording studio in there. However, when they were outside of the studio, this group would be up to no good, committing petty crimes together like stealing bikes and assaulting anyone who tried to stop them, meaning that by the time he had joined Chelsea Academy in 2012 at just 12 years old, Digga D had been drug dealing and navigating the streets for more than a year. Chelsea Academy being the same school that Central Cee, a few years his senior, was attending at the time. However, it didn't take long for this lifestyle to catch up with a young Digga, and in 2013, when he was 13, he was caught with flour at school, leading to his arrest and expulsion. After this, he would continue having trouble with the law, ending up not taking his GCSE exams and fully dropping out of school in 2014 when he was 14. After that, he would spend all of his time gangbanging with his friends in Ladbroke Grove, with Digga apparently commonly being seen hanging around Portobello Court with his friends and affiliates that would later form the gangs 1011 and CGM. But before the formation of CGM, around 2014, Digga D and other Ladbroke Grove gang members would come together to form a crew called 916. This alliance called 916 was very active active both in the streets and in the music, especially around 2014 and 15, with the leader at the time being Johnny 5, who would also be the main artist of the group. And so, it would be while being part of 916 that Digga D would release his first ever songs. On October the 28th, 2015, at the age of just 15, Digga D released his first song titled RNS. Let's call it real N-word stuff. Rapping over a dark, ethereal trap beat, RNS was an extremely early example of a UK drill song despite its basic production. It would showcase Digga's uncanny ability to paint vivid pictures of his rough experiences in the streets as a just 15-year-old gangster through his music. The song begins with Digga on the hook giving step-by-step instructions on how his trap operates, starting with a phone call followed by a delivery of packs in a stolen vehicle. In his second song, Trap House, which was actually released on the same day and covered similar topics to the first song, interestingly the cover art saw Digga D with a blue bandana covering his face, as the 1011 gang, later known as CGM, would actually identify as Crips and regularly wear blue. On this song, Digga went further than the trap talk and rapped openly about committing violence, claiming to regularly stab his ops with his flick knife and rapping numerous bars describing committing shootings with a shotgun. Digga's third and final release of the year was the track Jumping, released on November the 1st, 2015. It featured Digga rapping about trapping, stabbing, and shooting over a bass-heavy piano-backed trap beat. And while still not perfect, he had made some progress in improving both the production and his rapping from his previous releases. All in all, the music was full of hard-hitting lyrics, and if you weren't familiar with the UK drill culture, you'd have been shocked to learn that there were 15-year-olds running around West London shooting and stabbing people. And in 2015, this is the very early days of UK drill, when a lot of people probably couldn't have even imagined real criminals shooting and stabbing in the streets of London would then actually get on the microphone and admit their crimes openly on songs. But that's what Digga was doing, and he didn't know it yet, but he was about to be a big part of a new cultural movement that was about to sweep the city of London and change everything, with Digga D being in prime position to become one of the most realist and most dangerous rappers to come out of the UK drill scene. Already affiliated with a gang, Digga D seemed to get heavily involved in the violent side of London gang activity. Supporting the boss of the crew, we would even catch glimpses of him in Johnny 5's Ain't Scared music video with Digga wearing his favourite Gucci scarf and hat. From here, Digga D would only get deeper and deeper into the gang lifestyle, and rapping about it as he went along for the whole world to hear. But the difference between Central Cee and Digga D was that Digga was really living the most extreme gangster lifestyle. Central Cee, on the other hand, might have been dabbling as a dealer to make a bit of money on the side, but he couldn't authentically get on the mic and rap about the streets with any kind of authority. But that didn't stop him from eventually trying, because at the end of the day, unlike Digga D, Central Cee wanted to be a rapper more than he wanted to be a gangster. So while Digga D was in Ladbroke Grove, terrorizing the streets with a microphone in his back pocket, Central Cee was in Shepherd's Bush, prioritizing his music career over everything. But to begin with, he wasn't going the UK drill route, but actually dialing up the auto-tune and trying to make pop songs. Unfortunately for him, it would be around 5 years before he realized, ain't nobody trying to hear that. One of Central Cee's earliest public appearances in music came in the form of the song Our Time. Released on April the 15th, 2014, the music video featured Central Cee and Mo West, an early collaborator during Cee's early music career. Honestly, knowing Central Cee's hardened persona nowadays in 2025, it's hard not to laugh at how he looked in his less evolved form 11 years ago. It was clear that Cee was just starting out in rapping. His bars were simple and the production quality was low. And you can tell that he was young at the time because he's got the craziest high-pitched voice. But the lyrics of the song painted a picture of growing up hard, the hardships and pains that he was facing due to poverty and a desperate need to get money. It would be a decent debut for music, with Our Time reaching 1,000 views in the first 12 hours, and later hitting 10,000 views after about 2 months. During this early period, Cee and his team would refer to themselves as the Jewel Boys. Awful name. But one of the apparent members of the Jewel Boys was Sench's best friend Wads, who was actually profiled in a High Snobiety article about Sench. Young Wads would share a Twitter post giving an inside look at the original Jewel Boys studio setup. And this really showcased the humble beginnings of Sench's rap career, and also where Central Cee and Mo West locked in for 2 days recording 9 tracks. On May the 5th, 2014, the Jewel Boys returned with a cover of Jhené Aiko's The Worst. The song featured both Central Cee and Mo West, highlighting their apparent life in the streets. But interestingly, Central Cee started the rap by stating that he and his associates are active in the streets or on the roads, and rapping that he had to tell his mother not to worry about him dying due to his risky lifestyle, and rapping how what he witnessed in the streets made him tough and mentally cold, something that Mo West would apparently confirm later in the song. And it wasn't long before Central Cee released another music video with Mo West. On June 2014, the video for MDK was released. This song would see Sench rapping that he's really on the roads or in the streets and that his mother doesn't even know, and rapping that him and his friends ride and they die. I feel like this video is the first time Sench's his look and flow actually comes across really reminiscent of another singing, rapping sort of street artist, Dappy from N-Dubz. I think at the time, perhaps because of his look or maybe an actual admiration of him, Central was probably trying to take a lane in the rap game that kind of followed Dappy's success, kind of making music that appealed to the girls a little more than average, but still with a street edge. The music video would feature Central Cee with a gang of goons riding pedal bikes through the streets of West London, pedal bikes being commonly used in the city for personal transport, an exceptional way to get around if you're running packs. But interestingly, in the video, we begin to see Cench also flexing his fashion taste, heavily repping the clothing brand Trapstar, with Cench and the founders of the infamous streetwear brand actually being from the same place in the city. The brand would become heavily tied to his personal brand and identity in connection with the area he grew up in. Central Cee would also get a Trapstar tattoo on his stomach. Wow. The song MDK would reach 1,000 views in a few days, and in the same month on June the 27th, Central Cee followed up MDK with the street-focused song Bang Bang. And the title and the song itself kind of alluded to shootings and street violence and that sort of thing. On the song itself, Cench would actually reveal that another member of his family, his cousin, is in jail with apparent blood on his hands. On July the 5th, the song and music video Fake Love, another Central Cee and Mo West collaboration, was released. The track was a diss towards any fake friends or fans showing them fake love, but most interestingly, it marked Cench's earliest experimentation with auto-tune, something that he would continue to make use of during this experimental era of his career. But quite frankly, Cench was sounding cheeks on this track. Look, Cench was honestly just awful at rapping, but this is the most formative time when he's actually developing his talent and working towards his 10,000 hours. So despite how terrible it was, he continued dropping whack tunes non-stop and leveling up. On July the 13th, Cench dropped his newest solo song, Moneybound. This was another experiment in making more American-inspired trap hustle rap, with Cench rapping all about how he was riding around the city making money and selling rocks on his pedal bike. By April 2015, the track had garnered over 12,000 views. But following Moneybound, Cee would go missing for more than 4 months. However, his return would come with the release of a series of freestyles shining a light on his new music. The first one, called Personality Freestyle, was released on November the 4th, 2014, which upon release got him noticed by Grime Daily, one of the top UK music platforms, that tweeted that fans need to keep an eye on him. The outlet also noted that despite Central Cee being incredibly new to the game, he showed a lot of promise and urged people to keep a close eye on him. Interestingly, noting his age was just 16 at the time. Now, that freestyle has been duly scrubbed from the internet, so I didn't even find a version of it to listen to. But on November the 6th, 2014, this would be followed up by another freestyle that he did with legendary icon of rap radio Charlie Sloth on his Fire in the Streets freestyle series. But once again, this is another freestyle that's been completely wiped from the internet. A freestyle that GRM Daily also covered in an article revealing that at the time, Central Cee was the youngest ever person to perform on the Fire in the Streets series. Now, these two freestyles are impossible to find on the net today. However, we do know that they put Central Cee's music in the ears of the surrounding hip-hop community. 2015 would be the year that Central Cee would begin to gain a minor buzz in music. In January 2015, the year would start with a very important moment for the young rapper when he appeared on the remix of Youngun's track Ain't On Nuttin'. It was ironic for Central Cee to be included on a track with famous lyrics all about calling people out for capping about being gangsters. But anyway, this verse was straight up rap from Central Cee, no auto-tune, and that would be followed up by another straight rap song. On February the 4th, 2015, Central Cee dropped a new track called Patience, set to an easygoing rap beat that was a bit more backpack rap than pack rap. Later that month, Central Cee dropped the song Clockwork featuring Mo West, a track that included Cench using auto-tune on the hook once again, and it was awful, just awful. Oh, turn it off. Now, in his verse, he straight rapped, but it wasn't much better. In one lyric, Cench says that people judge him because of how he looks, but he's really getting active in these streets. Now, up until this point, Cee hadn't had a track that had cracked 20,000 views, and this one performed even worse, racking up just 6,000 in a year. It was bad. Like, at this point, he couldn't even decide whether he should go the full singing auto-tune route or the full fake roadman route, but frankly, we ain't trying to hear either of those. But Cench kept going. By the end of that month, Cench would be featured again on Link Up TV, this time with a Street Heat freestyle. And this was another important video that got Cench on many people's radar for the first time. Done over J. Cole's A Tale of Two Cities instrumental, where he sounded completely different from the Cench you know and love now. Once again, he would rap straight bars with no auto-tune, but still with a pretty squeaky voice and a 2015 era man bun, he was coming across as quite possibly the most punchable rapper in London. Rapping pain bars about not knowing his father and his mother thinking he's crazy, vowing to take over the rap game and win a Mobo award. Cench also defended allegations of being fake street, addressing people calling him a liar despite his closeness to the streets and struggle coming up in a poor household. Despite being a cringe fest looking back now, for a 16-year-old rookie, this was by far the most compelling rap that Cench had put out. In this freestyle, Cee managed to showcase just how much his technical rapping skill had grown in a year, managing to impress viewers with a YouTube comment shortly after its release, showing that some haters were actually becoming fans, with another commenter chiming in that Cee shouldn't be judged by his appearance because he's actually hard at rapping. Interestingly, more recent comments suggested that the freestyle actually proved Central Cee's ability at rapping and suggested that he later dumbed down his lyrics to go mainstream. While only garnering over 27,000 views a year later, the Street Heat freestyle most likely introduced him to a whole new audience and increased his following and respect. That would be followed on April the 10th, 2015, when Cench got busy on his SoundCloud dropping the audio for a song called Love in the Ghetto, one of the many love songs that he would drop in his early career, returning in November with the first of a series of freestyles from himself named the Throwaway Series, dropping the second installment a week later and the third and fourth in December. Now, these throwaway freestyles must have been so bad Cench really wanted to throw them away, because it's another freestyle series that Cench has tirelessly hidden from the internet, so who even knows if it was fire or trash. But clearly, he was getting busy with no signs of stopping, and from here, he continued to release music. His next song was titled Line and was later included as track 5 in his 2017 project 17. This song marked another strong example of Cench using auto-tune and rapping on the block about girls. He sings about blowing up a girl's phone and bringing her to his house and calling her his. Again, this was terrible. Regardless of how cringe it was sounding, it seemed like Cench thought that this dappy-adjacent approach to his music was fire, and he kept leaning into it, and it seemed that it was actually working for him for a little bit. By July 2016, Line had over 134,000 views, an outlier shred of success amongst what had so far been a pretty lackluster performing catalogue of music. The next month, Central Cee would release the track AM. Snippets on Twitter of the since deleted music video show Central Cee and a girl on a rooftop as he performs this love song. It's clear that Central Cee was specifically targeting the lucrative teenage girl audience that spent part of their day perfecting their pic collage skills to make cringy tributes to their new favourite dappy clone. But Central Cee's new female-focused lane was just opening up, and it was time for him to solidify his style with a longer project. On April the 22nd, 2016, Central Cee released the 6-track mixtape Bipolar, released in 2016 when Cee was 17 years old, but with material that was apparently all recorded when he was 16. Arguably, the tape was a flop, making minimal noise with none of the tracks even reaching more than 1,500 views even today after the fame. But Cench wasn't discouraged. Just a month after dropping his mixtape, Cee released the song and music video for Before It's Time. It was a significant improvement, perhaps the result of lessons learned. Before It's Time received over 2,000 views on YouTube on its release day, and this would also be the year where we would first start to see Central Cee organising more shows, such as this one advertised on Twitter in July 2016 at the prestigious O2 Academy Islington with an impressive capacity of 800. Now, funnily enough, this night was actually hosted by one of my best friends, content creator and rapper 96 Honcho, who even sent me some exclusive clips from the night. Central Cee was certainly taking fake it till you make it to brave new highs, but it would certainly still be quite some time until he truly made it. More than a month later, on July the 18th, 2016, Central Cee drops the song Good Girl, later included on his 17 mixtape. The music video included a cameo from some members of the Shepherd's Bush Gang 12 Anti, including YG, seen here to the left of Central Cee. With some light auto-tune and a booming trap beat, Central Cee admits to losing a good girl for a bad one and boasts that none of them are average. But if you ask me, this song was incredibly confused. It's like he wanted to make a song that appealed to the ladies and the gangsters, but he ended up doing neither. And that's really the story of this point in his career. Confusion and a lack of focus, but also heaps of determination and experimentation. Not more than a month later, on August the 9th, 2016, GRM Daily would feature Central Cee for an edition of their Hardest Out freestyle series. The track was a nice refresher of Central Cee's technical rapping skills, and thankfully, it was straight bars, no auto-tune. To be honest, this was one of the better Cench freestyles, and he must have rated it too, because this is one of the only freestyles still publicly available on YouTube at this point. And even today, after all of the fame, this freestyle is still sitting just a touch over 40k, just showing how little interest there actually is in these formative songs from the start of Cench's career. But aside from the lackluster numbers, the appearance was a breath of fresh air for fans like this YouTube commenter who had been listening to all of his Loving on Girl songs, a comment that Cench most likely didn't read, because a week later, on August the 16th, 2016, he dropped the love song Pull Up, possibly considered the most infamous song in his early discography, a song that best exemplifies the sound that Central Cee was going for at the time, fully focused on his female audience. And on the track, he sings and raps with auto-tune on a Caribbean-style hip-hop beat, coming with auto-tuned raspy bars that I can only describe as RD meets Dappy on a Freshers' Night Out. At the time, Cench must have believed that he could have broken into the music industry through his female following, but this strategy proved unsuccessful. And this song went down as one of the most cringe and embarrassing attempts of Cench to have been taken seriously in music in his whole career, leaving this song as being often referenced by those who label Cench as a wannabe gangster and having a fake persona. Today, the re-uploaded music video on YouTube is mobbed by comments saying that puberty was a huge part of his success, thanking God that he switched up his style. His small army of ravenous female fans weren't enough for him to achieve the numbers he wanted or needed. But joking aside, I really admire Cench's determination to keep going, experimenting and working out what people actually wanted to hear from him, and he wouldn't stop or be discouraged by the haters like me pointing out that his music was diabolical at this time. Anyway, Cench wouldn't drop for the rest of the year, and despite creative setbacks, Cee continued to grind and craft his sound over the next few years, steadily improving his style. Interestingly, this period from 2014 to 2017, Central Cee would rather forget. Many of these early songs and freestyles have been deleted from the internet, and in a Guardian interview only years later, he claimed that he only started putting out music in 2017, and calling his style inspired by melodious trap wave using auto-tune and making, as Sench called it, pretty boy music. Then, Sench would announce the drop of his second mixtape EP, Nostalgia. Dropping on March the 10th, 2017, the 5-track mixtape featured a cover of Central Cee, flowers in hand, looking like a romantic Spanish lover from a telenovela. This release, tailored for his young female audience, featured tracks like the seductive Baby Cakes, the romantic-driven Getaway, and the heartbreak anthem You've Been. And Sench was getting in full dappy mode on this project. Overall, this mixtape saw Central Cee leveraging his good looks and female fanbase in an effort to make it big in the industry, but it still wasn't getting him traction. On the same day Sench dropped his Nostalgia mixtape, Sench and Bambino would be seen together for a joint freestyle on the Black Box YouTube channel. At the time of release, commenters questioned why Sench kept singing tunes if he knew how to rap, pointing out that he's fire and that he doesn't need this garbage auto-tune, continuing to encourage Bambino and Sench to actually rap more often. Not long after, on the 21st of March 2017, Cee would make a guest appearance on the UK rap show Rinse FM hosted by Morgan Keeves. And although this appearance was one of the less exciting freestyles, featuring an unprepared Central Cee reading bars off his phone and occasionally messing up whole words, he was heavily criticised in the comments, questioning how he's coming to prove himself without even knowing his lyrics, and shaking their heads at him reading the bars off his phone, with it getting so bad that multiple comments even had to come to his defense, telling the haters to let the kid shine and saying that reading bars doesn't necessarily make him a bad rapper. This freestyle was a step in his journey that few people would get to witness live, with his UK rap show appearance ending its first 24 hours with only 157 views, but he kept on cooking and working regardless. In April the 24th of 2017, we would see another Sench live performance as a supporting guest, this time alongside future collaborator and somebody actually good at using auto-tune, Young Fume, for his headline show. And if that name sounds familiar, it could be from Young Fume's December 2018 track Secrets featuring Chicago's Lil Durk, or his other Lil Durk collab, the track Help You Out. But anyway, the performance, this time in a club setting, kicked off with Central Cee telling the small audience to join in and have fun even though they didn't know his songs.
We're gonna turn up, innit? If you don't know the song, yeah, just turn up with me, vibe with me, innit? Hey, hey, hey.
Starting his set with the recently released track Pull Up and closing out with Good Girl. But soon, he'd be back with his biggest project to date, on June the 14th, 2017, releasing his third mixtape, the 8-track EP called 17. The tape essentially defined him as a trap wave artist, fully incorporating auto-tune with hard-hitting beats, street-oriented lyrics, and love songs with the emotional qualities of wave music. Then on the 26th of June 2017, Sench would join forces with Cairo Keys, aka Lil KG5, on a full-on dancehall track sampling the Dream's I Love Your Girl. The Afrobeat and style track really had Sench trying his hardest to bring those Caribbean vibes that he'd been soaking up every year at Notting Hill Carnival, and this would be the first of many collaborations between Sench and Cairo Keys, who were clearly strong influences on each other's music at the time, but once again, that relationship too would sour sometime later. While the song came with a music video at the time, once again this has been completely scrubbed from YouTube. Central Cee's fourth project was released at the start of September 2017, and other than a couple of tracks that we've already mentioned that were released earlier, all the other tracks from the CS EP Volume 1 have been scrubbed from the internet too. This latest project also continued a similar genre of auto-tune tracks that was still a heavy part of his music arsenal, tropes that Sench would continue throwing at the wall throughout 2017 and 2018. It would be several months later when he released again, on July the 15th, when he would drop the track Wake Up. In October, Central Cee would drop his final track of 2018, titled Running Man, with the music video being released the next year. But interestingly, this song was also the first time that Cee mentioned his branding and team philosophy, Live Your Movie, or LYM, which later became Live Yours, a slogan that fans would seemingly gravitate to, and something that became the basis of an impressive jewelry collection years later. Sench's last music drop of the year would be on October the 15th, 2018. This would be another remix to Lil Baby's song, Drip Too Hard. Sench's Drip Too Hard remix showcased him flowing on the beat in his unique tone and delivery, combining singing and rapping with the heavy use of autotune that we have come to know and despise. And he would be seen rocking his new Live Yours merchandise throughout the whole video. By the end of 2018, Central Cee had barely established himself as an underground rapper. The fact was, things weren't really taking off for Central Cee rap-wise. His freestyles and solo drops rarely crossed over 20,000 views months after their releases, and despite a few rare exceptions, even Sench's pretty boy raps weren't taking off. By the end of 2018, we were entering peak UK drill. The year concluded with Russ releasing his song Gun Lean, a shooter's anthem which came with a jiggy dance, taking the most gangster, gun-toting rap music in the UK and commercializing it. And going into 2019, all the attention in the UK rap game was on the gang-banging demons really shooting and stabbing people in London and having the confidence to rap about it openly. Particularly, one UK drill rapper who gained a reputation in the streets as one of the most ruthless was the old schoolmate of Central's, Digga. So in 2019, Central Cee had the bright idea to copy the flow and make his music much more street-oriented, capitalizing on the gang mentality that was sweeping the UK drill scene at the time. And this would wind up being a huge success for Cee, whose career went from strength to strength. The only problem was that Sench was never really in the streets like that. In fact, while Central Cee was playing around with autotune and trying to crack the music industry, Digga had been knee-deep in a West London gang war, actually doing the things that all the drill drill rappers rapped about, and then making music about it effortlessly and authentically, capturing the hearts of drill fans all over London. And as years went by, dominance for the West London drill scene has truly become a battle between Central Cee and Digga D, but beneath their rap rivalry was also a very real and deadly gang war between two warring West London postcode gangs that eventually Digga D and Central Cee became the respective faces of. And by the time that both of them made it in music, West London streets were hotter and more dangerous than ever. And eventually, this street war would make its way into music, with both rappers becoming the generals of two very dangerous crews who couldn't help but bring their deadly gang warfare right into the music industry. In West London, the gang politics have evolved a lot over the years, but in the modern day, there's just a handful of sets that are the most significant when it comes to the affiliations of West London's most infamous rappers. As mentioned before, the gangs in the streets of Shepherd's Bush, where Central Cee spent his formative years, would eventually break into two main gangs, 12 World and 12 Anti. Meanwhile, their ops in rival hood Ladbroke Grove would begin to call themselves 1011. 12 World was known for particularly two main rappers, Sav 12 and S1, while other lesser known members would include guys like R2, TR2, SJ, Paps, Nico, SB, J-Trap, and J-Jugs. 12 Anti, who were at least at the time very close with 12 World, is nowadays best known for seemingly being the main gang that Central Cee associates with, while other rappers from the gang include guys like Fdot, Box 12, Little Catty, A2 Anti, Two Things, Bankroll Bugs, S2 Saucy, and Longs aka Hamilton. 1011, on the other hand, is of course best known for Digga D, while their other known rappers include guys like ZK, Savo, K-Sav, aka Loose One, Horrid One, M Scum, TY, Dodgy, Striker, Rack 5, Splasher, Sini Say So, JDF, and Johnny 5. Now, it's not clear exactly what started the beef between Shepherd's Bush and Ladbroke Grove, but once things went sour, they would soon begin escalating. An old clip, allegedly from 2016, but more likely from 2015, can still be found online, where a group of youths from Shepherd's Bush actually catch and confront a young Digga D, pressuring him to say F the Grove and F Johnny, aka Johnny 5, one of their biggest rappers at the time, and according to some, the leader of the Ladbroke Grove gang, which would later become known as 1011.
Where you from, fam?
What?
Do you f that youth? Do you f them?
You got these youths?
You got these youths? Or any of them?
Have you got these youths? Speak up, open your fucking mouth, fam.
Speak up, fam.
Open your fucking mouth and
Where
my
you
talking
from,
to you. You
fam?
got these youths? Speak up,
fam.
So what? Have you got these youths? Are you involved in it?
Are you involved?
You want anyone from Bush?
Nah.
I didn't think so.
You're not involved.
Nah, we're not
You're not
involved.
involved. Say
Say bro. Say bro.
Johnny. Say Johnny. Say Johnny.
Say it. Go on, say it in your face. Fuck you.
Digga has since rapped about this incident on numerous occasions, like on his intro song for the album Naughty by Nature in 2022, where he mentioned that it happened on Boxing Day, the day after Christmas, and that he brought himself a shotgun soon after to protect himself, as well as ending the song saying that after buying the dots, or shotgun, he then got the nickname Shotty Shane as he begun his Get Back campaign, even accusing the Shepherd's Bush members of turning him into a demon in the streets. In May 2016, Digga would drop his first music video called Hella Bands, where he can be seen in Grove with the rest of the 1011 members, AR916 as they were going by at the time. But this is a track all about trapping, specifically cooking up good rocks, and there's no real disses to specific ops in the song other than just generic references to rivals. But Digga does make it clear that he's well armed, even mentioning the shotgun that he'd supposedly bought after that incident with the Shepherd's Bush members. A few months later, in July, 12 World rapper Sav 12 would drop a song originally titled 12/10, although the title has since been changed to No Hook. The song's reference to 10 appears to be a clear diss towards the W10 postcode, which guys from Ladbroke Grove like Johnny 5 would be repping on their social media at the time. And saying 12/10 essentially means that his crew from 12 World are above the 1011 crew. As only a few months later, he would also drop the song Let's Get It, where he would repeat the same lyric, whilst making it clear he was talking about their ops. However, in general, both sides would keep releasing music with rather generic disses towards their ops, until November 2016, when Digga would drop the song and music video simply titled The Truth. The music video would show a young Digga surrounded by masked up goons, while he would rap bar for bar, dissing numerous ops explicitly by their names, many of these being Shepherd's Bush members, like a guy called Guops, and Creep Sav, aka Sav 12, saying that he left his bike and ran when one of Digga's members pulled out a gun on him. Digga would once again mention the time that he had been pressured to diss his own gang, saying how he had got a gun afterwards, and seemingly admitting that his friend R9 got arrested for the same firearm. The self-snitching would continue as Digga would also seemingly admit that his gang had stabbed an op called L1, this actually being a female member from Shepherd's Bush, with Digga actually bragging on another song called Violence that the gang will stab their ops regardless of gender, and that they stabbed up L1 because she was from 12 World, as well as saying that he stabbed the boss of his rival gang the same way that his friend had scored on Harrow Road rapper from the Mozart estate, Fdot, an apparent reference to an incident where Fdot was stabbed by a 1011 member named CJ at a carnival, apparently leading to a retaliation days later where CJ was stabbed in the eye. Digga would then end the song by saying how he's shooting people from Notting Hill Gate to the end of Bellow or Portobello Road, meaning basically the entire W11 and W10 area that he reps, and that the beef can't be settled, and that's why he keeps a gun on him. Songs like The Truth would help 1011 to gain momentum in the UK drill scene, as they were one of the first groups to go so in detail about the specific crimes that were going on in the area. In real life, they were deeply entrenched in their beef with the Shepherd's Bush gangs, and on the 15th of September 2017, they would allegedly attempt to score. At around 9:40 p.m, 3 alleged 1011 members were seen walking on the Primula Street near the White City estate wearing masks and armed with machetes. However, when the police would make it there, the trio had already left the scene, but about an hour later, the same trio would then be spotted walking within the White City estate, seemingly looking for their ops. Now, what happened next is somewhat open to interpretation. According to local news, one of the Shepherd's Bush gang members from the White City estate would notice the trio and begin following them around the estate, while calling other members to help, who would then join the hunt armed with their own weapons. This hunt ultimately ending with one of their own, a 16-year-old, somehow getting stabbed by the 1011 members, but fortunately surviving after being taken to hospital. However, according to the online drill detectives, the 16-year-old, who would allegedly be a 12 anti-member called Twin, would be stabbed first, after which his friends would try and hunt down the 3 1011 members, with a widely circulated CCTV footage capturing 2 of them, M-Scum and JDF, successfully running away from them. The CCTV would then capture the Shepherd's Bush members after the incident, hiding their weapons in a dumpster where K9-assisted police officers would later recover them. Only a few weeks after this incident, 1011 would come out with the song Play for the Pagans, including Digga D, Horrid One, and Sav O. The song would feature this trio dropping numerous disses towards Shepherd's Bush members, with Digga starting the song by saying how he saw 12 anti-members ST, also known as the rapper S2 Saucy, and Banks on Instagram Live, and instantly went to their location with a shotgun but ended up missing 2 shots. He would then continue by seemingly referencing the incident a few weeks earlier, saying that he swears that several 12 anti-members got stabbed, before listing several names, including Guaps, who is better known as the rapper Box 12. But Digga wasn't done, as he would next aim his disses towards the 12 World side of Shepherd's Bush, saying that if Jeezy, also known as the rapper J Trap, had tripped, he would have gotten stabbed, before also dissing Creeps, aka Sav 12, as he would make a reference to a rumoured event where someone from his own gang had allegedly shot at his mother's house, and how he hadn't done anything in revenge. Play for the Pagans was followed the next month with the song and music video titled No Hook, where 1011 would continue on their well-trodden methods of dissing their enemies, with M-Scum rapping how they left a man stabbed, so that the 12, aka Shepherd's Bush, is hot and crawling with police, and now that they're hot stepping in Zart, aka the Mozart estate, where Fdot and the Harrow Road boys are from, meaning that they're also trying to stab their ops there and calling the whole of West London the Wild Wild West. But unfortunately for 1011, later that same month, their promising careers in the rap game would come to a screeching halt, as 5 of their members, including Digga D himself, would be stopped by the police, who would find numerous large knives, machetes, and baseball bats, as well as masks and gloves in their car. The 1011 members would claim to the police that these were all just props for their next music video, but the police would claim that they had in fact stopped Digga and his goons right as they were about to go and slide on their ops in Shepherd's Bush once again, as the police had actually found a recently posted video online where Shepherd's Bush gang members were allegedly harassing Horrid One from 1011's grandmother, who was out on their block, and attempting to provoke 1011 to respond. The police got wind of this and shut everything down before it could spiral out of control, and from here, the 1011 members would remain locked up for the time being, but in true UK drill fashion, they would end up turning their misfortune into success by taking advantage of the growing infamy around them in the music scene, and at the end of November, they would end up dropping their next viral hit and a song that would go down down as one of the most iconic drill songs in history. A song, or technically two songs, that they had recorded for the highly popular Mixtape Madness YouTube channel as a part of their Next Up freestyle series, which showcases new artists who have shown promise in the drill scene. The song that also included a live performance style music video. Next Up would once again showcase familiar bars with references to seemingly real events that had happened between 1011 members and their specific ops. This tried and true tactic, mixed with a popular platform like the Next Up series, a hard beat, and clever wordplay, would turn out to be a deadly combination that would immediately go viral in the UK drill scene. The following day, Play for the Pagans music video would break 1 million views, and just like that, 1011, particularly their frontman Digga D, had become one of the hottest commodities in the UK drill scene, all while sitting in jail. Only a few weeks later, the Next Up freestyle would also hit 1 million views, as well as getting added to the official Rap UK playlist on Spotify. And only a few weeks after that, the Play for the Pagans music video would then break 2 million views, followed by the No Hook music video hitting that milestone in February. And from there, the numbers would just keep growing and growing. Years later, during his interview with Armani, Take Risks on the Members Only network, Digga would reminisce on how he had felt in jail as he realized that their music was blowing up.
When would you say that the music thing started kicking in terms of like you started realizing that, bro, like man's actually like someone out here type of thing?
It was someone in here because I was in jail when man clocked.
Okay.
So it was like, man done the Next Up, we done No Hook, Play for the Pagans. Then man recorded the Next Up right before man went jail. Recorded it and then went jail. And I need to ring Hunch and that, like, yo, where we go, what's going on? He's like, yo, we ain't really got nothing to put out there, like, might as well drop the Next Up. I'm like, bro, like, man, that's long, like, kind of save it, because man know man's sitting in here for a while, man's trials all in June and it's like November or something. I said, bro, like, man wanna drop what man's got straight away.
Yeah.
So, well, okay, might as well do it, the name's ringing anyway. Come out and boom, man's hearing this going off, but these times man's like, ain't even see. I don't even know if man's seen 1 million views yet. You get it? The last time I was on the road, I don't even know if No Hook hit 1 million and that before man even went jail. You get me? So I was like, boom. Kid officers are coming saying, yo, you lot got 1 million, you know?
So dog.
Saying, bruv, what? That's mad.
Yeah.
Man's excited. Man saying, what? But man's not believing it. So man's telling them, bro, go on the computer, go on YouTube, type the thing, print it out and bring it to my cell and then I'll believe you. And they're doing it, they're bringing it. I'm saying, yo, the views are going up. Chat to my mom. Yeah, it's going off. Then that was really like about it. That's it. Like just only officers and telling man, yo, 5 mil now, 6 mil, 7 mil, 8 mil throughout the months.
Yeah.
You get me?
However, the Next Up freestyle would also have one specific lyric that seems to describe a real-life event that almost allegedly destroyed Digga's rap career for good. This being a bar that TY raps about Digga having the whole HR locked off when he crossed that bridge. HR is short for Harrow Road, an infamous street that Fredo's gang, the HRB, or Harrow Road Boys, represent, while the accessing of this road from Ladbroke Grove happens by literally crossing a bridge. Many fans see these lyrics to describe an event that happened sometime in 2017 when Digga D allegedly shot up 2 rival gang members with a shotgun, one of them allegedly being a guy called Tubbs from Shepherd's Bush and another man. However, both victims would end up surviving this incident despite serious injuries, and Digga would seemingly beat the attempted murder charges related to this, later posting his paperwork online, only showing that the shooting had happened in the W10 postcode in 2017, as well as the eerie detail that one of the victims lost something, with rumors later circulating that Digga D shooting this person in the face actually left them blind. And years later, Digga D would brag in numerous bars about shooting someone in the head, like on the track Violence with Savo, and lyrics from his crib session where he talked about being interviewed about 2 attempted murders. And he would even say on the song Red Light Green Light years later that the police told him that he shot someone in the face and left them blind. But despite the disrespect, this wasn't a one-sided beef, and as time went on, Digga's rivals from Shepherd's Bush would also keep releasing music, like the March 2018 song called Grenfell by 12 Anti-member and Central Cee's good friend Fdot, as well as 12 World member called Rems, who would later become known as the 12 Anti-rapper 2 Things. The song's chorus ends with Fdot rapping how they came for the violence, not to be gentle, and that they'll leave their ops block like Grenfell. Many people would find this song very distasteful, as the Grenfell Tower was a real 24-story high-rise that burned down in a massive fire in June 2017, killing dozens of people. Moreover, Grenfell Tower was practically located in the hood of 1011, with this song not only making an offensive reference to the tragic fire, but also directly dissing the people that were likely to be most affected by the tragedy. Central Cee, on the other hand, had a completely different approach to the gang members in his area, as at the time of the fire, he actually offered a place to stay to the victims of this tragedy, which for the record seems like a genuinely nice thing for such a young guy to do, particularly given at this time he was still struggling as a small-time rapper. And it also goes to show you that at this time, Central Cee seemed like a pretty nice guy, having not yet fallen into the clutches of the local gang members. Anyway, overall, the Shepherd's Bush gangs were also benefiting from the increased attention that the fans of UK drill were paying them due to the beef between them and 1011, with the 12-world rapper S1 in particular gaining increasing popularity at this time with his energetic personality and disrespectful bars, often doing songs together with fellow 12-world member Sav 12. However, both sides were about to find themselves in some serious legal troubles. First, in June 2018, the 1011 members who had been arrested in November 2017 would finally face justice after going viral behind bars, and after pleading guilty to a conspiracy to commit violent disorder, all 5 would get sentences ranging from 10 months to 3.5 years, with Digga D, real name Reese Herbert's sentence, being amongst the lowest, likely due to his age being just 17 at the time. But that wasn't all, because in an unprecedented move by the courts, they would also ban the members from making what they called violent drill music, giving them so-called CBOs or criminal behavior orders, which banned them from mentioning death or injury and postcodes in a gang context in their music and on social media. This essentially meant that they couldn't even use the name 1011 as a group anymore, as this was a textbook example of them repping their gang. They would also need to notify the police 24 hours before releasing any music or videos and give a 48-hour warning before doing any shows or recording together, providing their location. The police, on the other hand, would comment that they were now likely to target other gangs with similar restrictions, which they indeed would. And only a few months later in September, numerous Shepherd's Bush gang members, who the police had been investigating since at least September 2017, after the incident between them and the 3 1011 members in the White City estate, would also receive similar sentences. These members would also include Central Cee's close friend Fdot from 12 Anti, real name Fernando Johnson, who would receive a 3 years and 4 month sentence for violent disorder and conspiracy to commit grievous bodily harm. All of the sentenced members were also banned from appearing in videos or audio that references gangs or weapons, as well as associating with each other in public, wearing face masks in public, entering the borough of 1011 during certain hours, and perhaps most tragic of all, banned from attending the Notting Hill Carnival. Digga D himself, on the other hand, would later tell Armani Takes Risks how he had first thought that the order banned him from rapping completely.
You've gone jail, next up, then they've hit you with a CBO, taking out bare tunes, boom, boom, and then you've come out.
Yeah.
Did you think you could rap? Like, when you got the CBO now, you're thinking, like, what was you thinking?
I ain't done it.
Okay.
No more rapping.
And I don't remember CBOs before that. In fact, maybe LD got one. Did you get one where he had to not wear his mask or something? I can't remember.
I don't even know, innit?
Yeah. But you lot sting.
They were saying man's the first to get the CBO.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Man's just cool, just going off what they're saying, but boom. Oh, yeah, man's come out. That's why man took so long to release. Normally, you think these men are in jail for a year.
Yeah.
Done a whole 12 months, they're gonna come out and release them straight away. Bro, man's come out, but bare man's thinking, bro, man can't even rap.
Yeah.
So I think man come out in October or something. And man didn't release till like late November. Something crazy like that. People are like, bro, these men have been out here for a time. My man's name was just ringing bells. Like, why is he not dropping?
I think he's just wasting it type.
Yeah, but man saying, bro, man didn't know man can rap.
Yeah. Oh, you thought the CBO meant it's over, like no rapping?
Bro, no rapping.
Okay.
But of course, this was not the case, and after Digga was released in October 2018, it would take him a full month to release any music, even though the entire UK drill scene was now waiting for him to drop. Then, in early November, he would finally put out a new song, No Porkies, together with Sav O and ZK from the former 1011, who were now officially going by the name CGM, which at least officially at this point seemed to stand for Constantly Getting Money, as they would state in the intro to this track. But while Digga and Sav O had both been ordered not to make any references to death or injury, they were seemingly still not holding back too much, as they were still rapping about sliding on their ops and not settling any beefs, with the only clear difference being that they were no longer mentioning their ops by name. However, in real life, it seems like very little, if anything, had changed when it came to how Digga and the 1011 members moved in the streets, and already in November 2018, they would allegedly get themselves involved in another violent incident, only this time, Central Cee himself would be involved. Now at this point, Central Cee was still experimenting with his career and playing around with auto-tune and doing a dappy tribute act that honestly wasn't really going anywhere, but he was about to come face to face with the gritty gang violence of the roads that he had occasionally referenced in his early music. And it would be his ties to Shepherd's Bush and his friends affiliated with the 12 World and 12 Anti-gangs that would get him tangled up in the violence, forcing him to pick a side too. As on the 30th of November 2018, Central Cee and his brother were with some friends outside of a Sainsbury's grocery store on Davisville Road in Shepherd's Bush. Here, they were approached by 2 males, one of whom was allegedly Digga D himself. A verbal altercation would take place between the parties before a knife was pulled out and Central Cee's brother was stabbed. As the police arrived to the scene, they they would begin to assist his brother, who appeared to be partially slumped and in danger of going unconscious. Cench himself would first act hostile towards the police, and nobody would provide any details of what happened at the scene. Central Cee's brother was then taken to a hospital where his lungs were treated and he was given a blood transfusion, while the hospital staff would reportedly find numerous small bags of grass in his trousers, indicating that he had possibly been drug dealing at the time of the attack. Now, not much information is available about this incident other than the apparent police report, which one of the CGM, formerly 1011 members, called Duppy, would post on his Instagram in 2021 whilst dissing Central Cee and asking why he didn't move wild in the West that day, as well as saying that he wasn't going to talk about the incident, but since Central Cee started putting 100 ops in his music videos, he's now fully involved in the beef too. But more on that later. Digga D would later rap about this stabbing incident on several songs. In 2021, he dropped his beatbox freestyle. While the song was originally released as a censored version, an uncensored version would eventually leak, with Digga rapping how they stabbed Central Cee's brother, pleaded not guilty, but still ended up beating the case. Also in 2021, an alleged plugged-in freestyle with Fumes the Engineer would apparently leak, where Digga D would rap how Central Cee just stood there and watched them stab his brother, with fans reacting on social media, saying how the song was definitely going to get Digga recalled to prison for breaking his CBO. However, Digga himself would deny ever even being at Fumes' studio. The song still circulates. Meanwhile, on Reddit, the online detectives have alleged that a member of the so-called LA gang was the person who did the actual stabbing in this situation. This gang, which is from around the Latimer Road area, is apparently very close with 1011 or CGM members. But whoever was behind the actual stabbing, this was only the beginning of the troubles that Digga would find himself in, as he had seemingly learned very little from his run-ins with the law, and already the following year, in 2019, he would find himself locked up again. But even more interestingly, it would be after this knife-point brush with death that Central Cee would have a spark of inspiration, deciding to get even closer to the streets rather than backing away, and taking inspiration from Digga D's life and violent drill music, and deciding it was time to do a complete 180. At this point, Cench dropped the auto-tune and begun to make much more gritty drill music that appealed to the gangsters on the streets rather than the girls in the club. And it would turn out that this strategy would take Central Cee right to the top of the game, but it would also have the unintended consequence of making him a bigger target in the streets than he had ever been before. Central Cee had been making and releasing music since 2014, and despite showing early promise in a few of his freestyles, mainstream success still eluded him. Having tried multiple styles of rap so far, Central Cee was still riding the wave of melodic singing and auto-tune rap at the beginning of 2019. Cench's next release was teased by Cairo Keys on Instagram with the Live Your Movie hashtag on March 24th, 2019, hinting at another collaboration between the dynamic duo. Their next song would be a sequel to their last collab that dropped about a year before, when Central Cee featured on Cairo Keys' album Heartless, another track that had that early trap wave style. Just a few months later, on June the 24th, Grime Daily would upload the song back to back, which featured Central Cee and Cairo Keys, a Live Your Movie production. The song had a catchy guitar melody with a trap beat, and Cairo Keys soon followed up with a catchy hook focused on chasing the money and buying designer drip for his girl. The feel-good track was heavily influenced by Lil Baby and Gunna and saw an amazing chemistry and back and forth, with an effortless dynamic clearly developing between Cairo Keys and Central Cee. The track had all the ingredients to become a decent summer jam. Although he wasn't yet the artist we know today, Cench was at least starting to get better at flowing melodically over trap beats, with much less of that dappy from N-Dub's cringe from his earlier work. This track didn't feel forced like some of his previous songs. It sounded good, but it's hard to deny that the up-and-coming star Cairo Keys played a major role in the song's success, and at the time of its release, fans in the comments shared the same sentiment, predicting the track was destined to blow up. And while some gave their props to Central Cee, there appeared to be a clear bias towards Cairo Keys being the better performer on the track, with one commenter even asking what Central Cee even contributed to the song. But all in all, fans were still happy with the collaboration, calling the pair brothers for life. And Back to Back became one of Central Cee's best performing songs so far, with 108,000 streams in less than 3 weeks. Central Cee's determination and creative growth was starting to show. His flow had improved, becoming more confident and refined, while his beat selection was also improving and Americanizing his sound. However, at this point, it still wasn't enough. Their collaboration on the track highlighted the talent and chemistry between Cench and Cairo, but unfortunately their partnership would later come under strain too, leading to a series of unfortunate events that became a topic of discussion on Reddit and for YouTube documentarians, which accused Central Cee of jacking Cairo's style and then leaving him in the dust. But arguably, Cench didn't actually succeed until he changed his style away from what he was doing with Cairo, and Cairo himself eventually found massive success in his own original style with the song Gang. But Cee's next appearance would prove to be a defining moment in his career and a big evolution of his style. After his violent altercation with Digga D, where his brother was stabbed at the end of 2018, it would be ironic to just about a year later see Central Cee popping up on the very same freestyle platform that saw West London menace Digga D catapulted to fame, because on October the 9th, 2019, Central Cee was featured on Mixtape Madness's Next Up freestyle series, rapping into the mic in the same iconic location beside the Thames River in London. Now, in a stark contrast to Digga D's aggressive and violent Next Up freestyle, Central Cee would start the track with heavy auto-tune, singing melodic raps all about his time as a drug dealer and his ambitions to become rich, bragging in auto-tune about even selling drugs while in school, and ironically saying that everything he says is authentic. But make no mistake, even though it wasn't a violent UK drill style Next Up freestyle like Digga's was, it was still fire. Cench was really doing his thing, even with the auto-tune singing, and starting to sound really good on the mic. But then, in a surprising move, more than halfway through the track, there would be a beat switch, as is usually the case on Next Up freestyles being two-parters. And really, this is the moment where Central Cee truly evolved. Suddenly, the auto-tune turned off, and Cench began rapping over a dark, moody rap beat in his natural voice. This was the pivotal moment in Central Cee's career. He would drop the pretty boy act and keep it real rap. He sounded better, more confident, more himself, and his lyrics about drug dealing in this context suddenly felt a lot more believable and respectable. One YouTube comment later said, referencing famous lyrics from his later track Day in the Life, this indeed was the moment where he turned off his auto-tune so we could hear how he really raps. The video is now flooded with more recent comments saying that the beat switch was indeed the moment that we met the Central Cee we know today, pointing out the many styles he had tried out before finally finding this perfect style. As 2019 began with Central Cee releasing the track Transition, it fittingly concluded with yet another significant transition in his career. By the end of 2019, Central Cee had refined his style and flow, finding that sound that would eventually propel him to the top of the charts in the UK and beyond. The Next Up freestyle marked this breakthrough, testament to his hard work, and little did he know he truly was next up. In his 2023 interview with Vogue, Central Cee reflected on his defeated mindset that he had in 2019, saying that after 7 years of making music and experimenting with different styles, gaining no recognition, his confidence had hit an all-time low. But it was during this slump that Cench would meet his current manager, YB's, a mysterious figure that is apparently a big part of Central Cee's success. With an air of mystery around him, YB's keeps his face covered. A bit of a pointless exercise when he used to be a bait-faced rapper, but still. In a 2024 interview with GQ, YB's revealed that he'd reached out to Central Cee after he saw a post of him rapping on Instagram in 2019. YB's is often credited with playing a crucial role in Central Cee's dramatic shift and subsequent success, helping Cench adapt to not using auto-tune and getting distribution for his music, something that Cench and Adam22 would discuss in detail in his No Jumper interview.
Like, had you started to have like a manager or any kind of people behind you when these songs started popping off?
Yeah. I had my manager, I met my manager like a year before we dropped that song. And he hit me like...
YB's?
Yeah.
I heard that he was I heard from a friend of mine that he's like pretty respected and that they think he's kind of pretty integral in you being able to pull all this off. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, no, he is for sure.
Cench also told Adam about YB's constant encouragement that pushed his career forward.
But I didn't have no music really, like at all. And I didn't know what I was doing. I was more so on the roads, and he was meeting me here and there, just trying to like encourage me to do music and take it more serious. But I didn't have like the right song. I was going to studio here and there. So
Cench hired YB as his official manager, despite not having that much industry experience, simply because he believed in him and the vision that he had for his career.
But the weird thing was he had no experience in music. He was just telling me like how it is. He was telling me I don't really have too much experience in managing or anything, but I'm a quick learner and whatever. And he didn't tell me, like, you see when you meet a lot of people in music and whatever, they sell you a dream and they tell you what you want to hear. He wasn't doing any of that, and I hate that stuff, like when people do that and just try to sell you a dream, tell you what you want to hear and all that.
Although new to management, YB's was no stranger to the rap game, because before 2013, he had actually been rapping under the name YB Bello, such as on the May 2013 track Find My Way intro, where he raps over a dubstep beat with even a young Tion Wayne making an appearance in the video. But you can best hear his rap style at the time from this December 2012 Mixtape Madness freestyle, with plenty lyrics about trapping that no doubt meant he would be capable of helping Central Cee come up with similar lyrics. Now, clearly Bello's music career didn't take off, and rebranding himself as YB's and beginning to hide his face to create a mysterious aura no doubt helped him and Central Cee capture their fans' interest. And while we don't have much information on any contractual agreements between the two or YB's actual qualifications as a music manager, it was clear that behind the scenes he was a man with a plan, and his help would certainly make a difference in Central Cee's career from here on out. Now, a lot of posts on Reddit have circulated speculating on how YB's was able to put Central Cee on in the rap game so effectively, with some suggesting that at the time he became Central Cee's manager, YB's actually had a lot of money already through his investments in crypto and jewelry, no doubt made possible by some of that trapping that he was rapping about doing back in the day. And apparently this wasn't YB's first rodeo, as he had previously managed another prominent UK rapper, Rimsey. So YB's used some of his mysteriously gotten money to provide Central Cee with the necessary financial support to get his career moving. But for someone who likes to hide his identity, YB's really does seem to love attention on social media, because ever since becoming Centr's manager, associating himself with this talented rising star has led YB's to get a little drunk off his own success. And over the years of Centr's rise, he's found himself constantly bragging on social media and positioning himself as the real brains behind the operation. YB shared some screenshots of conversations between him and Central Cee after they became successful, with photos showing £100,000 in cash and a caption boasting how when labels were offering them £1 million deals, he was already running up $1 million some other way, and later sharing screenshots of one of his Bitcoin wallets with Central Cee in a conversation where he seemed to be updating Centr on every few $100s that he was making in crypto. Years later, while on No Jumper, Central Cee would speak on approaching YB's for help, working on and pushing his breakout track Day in the Life.
So when I came with that song, came to him, I said, look, this is the one. He's like, you sure? I said, yeah, cool. I said, yeah, this is the one. Let's push it. I want you to help me work it. He said, alright, cool.
So now, with a sharp strategy to drop the auto-tune, pick up a more gangster persona, and with the backing of his mysterious ex-trapper crypto-pumping manager, it would be time for Central Cee to begin his full takeover of the UK drill scene, and conveniently doing so whilst his biggest rival in West London, Digga D, was facing massive hurdles in his career and constant spells of incarceration. Together, they would carefully craft a unique drill persona, with Centr going forward positioned more like a mascot for West London roadmen, a drastic switch up from his old pretty boy image. They created a clean artistic slate by removing old content and photos from the internet, including releases with other artists like Cairo Keys. Central Cee didn't really want people to know about or see his embarrassing auto-tuned attempts to become a rapper now that he decided on this new lane to be in, so you know he's gonna hate this video. But once he had scrubbed all of his cringe past from the internet, Centr went dark for a 7-month period and didn't drop any music, but he was still active, apparently taking steps to continue positioning himself to be as street as possible and posting up around the serious gangsters from his area. As this musical hiatus was also around the time that we have the earliest publicly available proof of Centr, together with the infamous 12 Anti member Fdot, both being seen on an Instagram story made by Central Cee, with Central Cee rocking the same hairstyle that he had in his Next Up freestyle from October 2019. Now, Centr had apparently also begun inviting West London gangsters to the studio with him to create an authentic UK drill vibe whilst he was recording, with the presence of these gang members apparently encouraging him to rap bars and come up with lyrics that would impress these street-focused thugs that he was keeping around him, with Cee explaining in a later interview that his next song was recorded in a local studio with about 10 people, including Box 12, A2 Anti, and other local affiliates, and that he would, quote, feed off that energy. Cee would ultimately break his musical silence on April the 5th, 2020, for the select few that were watching Central Cee's Instagram live at the time, once again taking the fake gangster persona seriously, strategically donning latex gloves as if he was about to go on a non-existent drill. With Bambino behind him in the studio, Central Cee played over a minute of the nearly finished song that would be his next release, the track Day in the Life. Now, from the very start, this song was an undeniable banger, and at the end of playing it, a very proud Central Cee would end the Instagram live. Centr clearly knew that he had something special here, but him and his team wanted to build the hype even further before releasing it. His next appearance came a week later on April the 11th with an Instagram freestyle, with him rapping over a traditional rap beat. Cee shared raw tales of his drug dealing past, his struggles, the harsh realities of trapping, and his determination to succeed. A drastic shift from the dappy style love songs of his past, he was now knee-deep into the street drill sound. And Centr wasn't the only one, as before he fully came out of the roadman closet with a fresh Nike tech, some of the real gangsters from his area would continue making noise in music too, as on April the 12th, 2020, 12 Anti's Box 12 and Fdot and Bankroll dropped a plugged-in freestyle with Fumes the Engineer on Link Up TV's YouTube channel. The track was characterized by hard-hitting drill lyrics all about the 12 Anti members' gangbanging activities in the streets. Fdot rapped about his past stabbings, saying that he's lost count of how many he's done and that he's always ready to attack his ops any day, any time. Even eerily at one point describing filling a gun with bullets and shooting his ops in the head, and dissing an op for playing dead during a stabbing incident. 12 Anti were keeping their gang relevant in music after Digga D and 1011 turned CGM had such an incredible run over the last few years, but within a few months of this freestyle dropping, it would be Central Cee who would be taking the crown as the most relevant rapper associated with the 12 postcode gangs in London. As on June the 14th, 2020, Central Cee's life would change forever when he releases the song and music video for Day in the Life, a release that marked the biggest turning point in his more than 7-year career, with its captivating bars and infectious horn sample looped over a booming UK drill beat arrangement, combined with Central Cee's new roadman persona and an impeccable collection combination of Nike Tech and trap star tracksuits, the track was a bullseye for his target audience. The song featured aggressive, vivid lyrics with Cench painting a picture of life in the streets of West London. The first two bars being the hook, as Cench references what he did in part 2 of his Next Up freestyle, and continuing on this song, telling the audience to turn off the auto-tune and see how people really rap. He would of course talk about selling drugs and trapping extensively, and in an effort to appeal to the hardened gangsters losing friends to the streets, he ended his first verse with a tribute to a 12 World member A1 who was stabbed to death whilst trapping before turning 18. Day in the Life was Central Cee's finest hour so far, and the comments at the time of its release would confirm that, saying that this song was 100 times better than anything in his previous catalogue, with many positive comments from international audiences who claimed to have fallen in love with Cench's British accent. The song was doing numbers, racking up over 150,000 views just 2 days after its release, Central Cee's biggest debut yet, hitting a massive 2.4 million views within just a month. Even Cairo Keys at the time was happy for him. Day in the Life today currently sits over 94 million views and over 234 million Spotify streams. And the track would debut on the UK singles charts the next year, around the time of the release of Cench's Wild West mixtape that had the song on it. But despite the late debut, Day in the Life would be Central Cee's first big hit, peaking at number 44 and spending 5 weeks on the UK Top 100 charts. And it was an international hit too, as Day in the Life went on to be certified gold in the UK, Sweden, Canada, France and New Zealand, and even platinum in Australia. Cench and YB's new strategy had hit the nail on the head. The beat, the lyrics, the outfits and the overall message was perfectly on point, and the track really did paint a picture of a genuine day in the life for thousands of London youths, and as a result the song would resonate with the streets like crazy. Speaking with URN Network years later, Central Cee's manager YB's would actually share their plan after the release of Day in the Life. Apparently C and his team decided at this point not to overwhelm the audience with a bunch of remixes and efforts to milk this one track for more than it was worth. Instead, they focused on just releasing brand new songs. YB's explained that by taking this approach, new listeners would discover Day in the Life alongside Central Cee's other tracks, helping him avoid the one-hit wonder curse. Just a few days before dropping his next track, Central Cee was seen giving fans a sneak peek by rapping along to it in his car. About a month after Day in the Life dropped, on July the 26th, 2020, Cench released another drug dealer anthem called Molly. The music video started with a huge crowd in Shepherd's Bush, all rapping along to the earlier release song Day in the Life. In the next shot, Cench flaunting his Live Yours chain, the new more punchy evolution of Live Your Movie. On this new banging beat produced by Ghosty and Chris Rich, we would hear Central Cee rapping drug dealer bars over a haunting beat, referencing his previous bars in Day in the Life about selling party drugs, but this time specifically mentioning that he was the one passing out Molly at parties. Central Cee also moved beyond just rapping about interactions with women and life living in the bando, rapping that he was having endless talks with labels, being lowballed, and making it clear that he was looking for the same record deal as Manchester rapper H, someone that he would have jealousy issues with later in his career, with Cench rapping that he wants at least £1 million to sign a deal, and that his deal must be as big as H's deal, with H having recently just signed an enormous deal with Caroline International in February 2020, while Cench at this time was apparently being offered deals as low as £20,000. Cench's struggles to get signed was something that YB's would joke about in their conversations at the time, asking C if he would join a reformed N-Dubs if they offered him £1 million. But anyway, Molly was Central Cee's latest drug dealer anthem, and the fans were loving it. Upon release, YouTube comments noted how Cench went from average to dropping absolute hits, and how it was about time that he blew up in the rap game, praising him for finally finding his sound. Day in the Life and Molly were a powerful 1-2 punch, and Cench's name was now buzzing in the UK drill scene, with Day in the Life being the better performer, and Molly dropping within a month of his initial hit, giving fans even more music to enjoy, especially since Cee's old catalogue had been scrubbed from the internet. Molly would gain over 3 million views over the next 3 months, and as of today, it has over 18 million views, and close to 39 million streams on Spotify. This would have been a massive success for C had he not just had an even bigger track with Day in the Life, but from here, Cench showed no signs of letting up, and he would continue to make big appearances in the UK rap scene. On August the 16th, 2020, Central Cee delivered a memorable freestyle on the Mad About Bars series, hosted by leading British DJ and radio presenter Kenny Allstar, with Kenny Allstar introducing Central Cee as destined for greatness. Building on the success of his previous 2 releases, even Central Cee's freestyle received 1 million views in less than a week. At this point in his career, making 8 figures from music might have seemed like a dream, but as time went on, this began to seem more and more like an inevitability than a dream. Following his 2 previous successes with Day in the Life and Molly, Cench would release the music video for his hit track Loading on October the 22nd, 2020. The music video, like his previous ones, was shot in Shepherd's Bush. Cairo Keys and 12 Anti-members made appearances in the video, giving C a much needed extra dose of street credibility. And despite claiming on the hook not to be on the roads too tough, in other bars he alluded to his little brother carrying a knife and openly claiming that his homies leap out of cars with masks on to do drills. even claiming that when he goes on dates with women, he makes them hold his weapons. He also showcases iconic West London locations like Shepherd's Bush Market, as well as extensively shining a light on London street culture at the time, riding around the city on electric scooters in a plethora of hyped tracksuits. Central Cee struck gold with Loading, and it quickly surpassed Day in the Life. The song achieved over 1 million views within just 5 days of its release, over 4.5 million views in a month, close to 9 million views by the end of 2020, and today, Loading has a whopping 184 million views on YouTube and 394 million streams on Spotify. Loading debuted on the UK singles charts at number 37, the song would eventually rising to number 19 and enjoying a solid 20-week run on the charts. The track also made waves in the Irish singles charts, peaking at number 39 and staying on the charts for a remarkable 30 weeks, as well as going on to get certified platinum in the UK, Australia, Sweden, Canada, and New Zealand, and going gold in France. By the end of 2020, Central Cee had cemented himself as one of the rising stars in the UK drill scene, making it onto Capital Extra Ones to Watch at the end of the year alongside upcoming American artists like Chef G, with the station labelling him as one of London's most exciting emerging artists. His unique blend of infectious beats, compelling storytelling, mainstream appeal, and authenticity attracted a wide audience all around the world. However, immediately after the release of Day in the Life and every subsequent track, Central Cee's authenticity would come under more and more scrutiny. Debates would begin online about whether Central Cee was an industry plant, whether he was a fake gangster, or simply lying about or embellishing his experiences from the streets. The industry plant allegations were mainly born out of the fact that he seemingly came out of nowhere and grew too fast, likely from people who weren't paying attention for the first 6 years of his career. And ultimately, there were many people that came to his defense. Caged Birds would discuss the industry plant accusation, noting his long history in the music industry and extensive marketing.
He's an industry plant, bro, and I feel like
he's not industry.
Oh man,
I call him an industry. So I'll tell you why you cannot call him an industry. One, because you can see his progression from time ago.
Prolific UK rap manager turned YouTuber Bouncer would point towards Central Cee and his manager's plan, suggesting it was truly authentic.
Big shout out to Bello. He saw his artists, they thought of a plan, they executed the plan. There's nothing more. You guys can't keep on overthinking and thinking because someone's got so much success, they're industry plant.
Critics would question whether Central Cee's portrayal of street life and his personal anecdotes in his songs were authentic or not. And a lot of people would highlight potential discrepancies between his persona and the actual life that he lived. And a lot of skeptics would indeed label him as a capper, believing that he has exaggerated or completely fabricated parts of his narrative to gain popularity. Now, his manager YBs would later defend Central Cee extensively, calling out people who have unrealistic aspirations from trapping rather than seeking valid opportunities to make money. He said that unless you're black or have been to jail, then you shouldn't even chip in and talk down on Central Cee. And YBs would claim that being a former trapper himself who had been to jail, he was an authority on the topic, saying that if you haven't made $1 million or ain't gonna make $1 million, quit trapping and get a day job. Another prolific rapper turned viral podcaster, Young Spray, had also come to Central Cee's defense numerous times, giving him a blanket pass for anything that he said in his songs, loyalty that would ultimately be rewarded years later.
For two different things. Central Cee, I don't believe he is anything what he says.
Pick up Central Cee.
I don't believe he does anything. I don't believe he trap. I don't believe he does none of that.
I do.
But
I do.
I don't believe none of it.
I do.
I don't. That's something about it. It just doesn't sound right.
And ironically, even Central Cee's ops would eventually come to his defense, with Striker from CGM talking to UKL on The Tremendous Show and admitting that Central Cee had indeed trapped, but that it was unlikely that he'd been on drills.
Who's making the hits?
Yeah.
The GOAT on this thing right now is Central Cee. At least you gave him his flowers. You gave him his flowers. I'm so Central Cee. Central Cee used to rap before Digga, bro. The guy's been rapping for time, bro.
For a while.
The guy used to have flipping a nose ring and a ponytail and rapping and doing mad freestyles and that. So, and that's another thing. You know how I said commitment and dedication? I give it to a man because a man was rapping from donkeys. And now look.
Instead of quitting, he tried something else.
This is what I'm saying. And he's doing his thing. But the only thing that I just don't like is that there's a lot of cat, man. There's a lot of cat. Like, bro. Like, there's certain times I've heard some tunes and I'm like, bro, he's talking great. I'm thinking, what's going on? I'm keeping it real. Digga's a road youth. Central Cee has never been a road youth, bro. They know. There's certain men from certain blocks. I would rather them be rapping than that guy talking grease because you've actually mashed works. So certain man can't talk this chat. So look, if a man's talking about trapping, I'm not gonna be like, oh, he's capping. Because I know he was trapping because he was jugging from my bedroom, bro.
The debate about whether or not Central Cee was truly authentic in the streets has raged on for years ever since he became successful. However, the one person whose opinion we would want to hear the most was of course West London menace Digga D, who in October 2020, after the raging success of Central Cee's song Loaded, would be spotted on Instagram listening to that song live, saying that he knew Central Cee and that he went to school with him, but other than that, he's not saying too much. Clearly giving some impression that the two had some kind of history. Someone in the comments would even ask Digga if Central Cee was capping in his raps, to which he would reply simply saying that he doesn't know.
Is he a capo? I don't know. Like. So I don't know if he's capping. I don't think he's capping. I don't know if he's capping. He might be capping. So I'm asking mad questions.
Central Cee's new persona and gritty street gang-inspired lyrics would catapult him to new highs in the UK rap game. But for his more authentic rivals in Ladbroke Grove, like Digga D, who had really been living the kind of life that Central Cee was rapping about, music was still secondary to the streets. And while Central Cee was finding his sound and taking his career in a popping new direction, Digga D and his homies from 1011 would still be going in and out of prison, fighting murder and firearm cases, and once again rapping about it for the whole world to see, with these gritty and authentic raps captivating the UK drill scene. So before Central Cee had truly perfected his roadman persona, it would be the real roadmen Digga D and CGM who would be dominating the streets of West London musically. But unfortunately for them, it would only be a matter of time before the copycats perfected that style too and completely overtook the real gangsters. At the end of 2018, Digga D would be released from prison after going on a legendary run in the UK drill scene from behind bars, announcing his freedom with a video posted to social media where he dissed the prison guards as he left.
See this place? Get all the gloves and that. Special come now, get.
After being released, Digga D and the rest of the 1011 gang members turned rappers from Ladbroke Grove were forced to rebrand musically, as the name of their gang was directly in breach of their CBO, criminal behaviour order, that had banned them from rapping about postcodes in a gang context. And so from here, they began to go exclusively under the new moniker CGM, which stood for Constantly Getting Money, Cherish Godmore, and allegedly in the streets, Certified Grove members. Or perhaps at times, if they're wearing blue, Crip gang members. But more of that later. Things were off to a good start, with Digga's popularity being through the roof at this point, and UK drill fans eagerly waiting for his every drop. A November track titled No Porkies would see the crew repping their new police-friendly name CGM. However, as we'll discuss next, a repeating pattern in Digga's career would be that he simply wasn't able to stay out of trouble or jail, as already at the beginning of 2019, he would quickly find himself facing yet another major legal battle. Only a few months after the confrontation that saw Digga and a friend allegedly stabbing Central Cee's brother, another wild spur of violence popped off with 1011 members involved. On the 2nd of January 2019, at around 7 PM, police were called to a mass brawl taking place near the intersection of the Great Western Road and Harrow Road in the W10 postcode. Arriving at the scene, the fighting had already stopped and everyone had fled, except for one man who had suffered a stab wound, while another teenager would take himself to hospital with a slash wound on his face. However, checking the CCTV in the area, the police would see the brawl took place, noticing a grey and red vehicle arriving at the scene. The people from these cars would then confront several people who were already at the scene, with both sides being armed with weapons like large knives, and seemingly even a handgun which one person would aim towards rivals, while the public can be seen running away from the scene in panic. It would later turn out that this had been a fight between rapper Fredo's Harrow Road Boys gang and Digga D's Ladbroke Grove gang, formerly 1011, who were now calling themselves CGM, with members like Digga D, Sav O, and ZK personally taking part. Later that month, Snapchat stories from several CGM members would show that Digga and Sav O had been arrested once again, but they would not reveal the reason for the arrest at this time. Sav O, aka J-Sav, would then confirm the arrest, as he would tell his fans to write to him at the Feltham prison. News reports would later reveal that these arrests were indeed linked to the brawl, as the police had carried out a warrant at Sav O's address, and apparently the warrant was carried out soon after Digga and Sav O had posted a video of them on Snapchat brandishing two guns.
Show them the side. Burn this for dice.
With the arrest warrant mentioning this video and the violent disorder for justification on the raid of Sav and Digga. And in the search, they would find clothing that matched the suspects in the CCTV footage, while their phone examinations would also place them at the scene. Still, already the following month in February, Digga would seemingly be back home straight away.
You saying you back?
Trust me, you just got no free shootings.
And he would get straight back to the music, teaming up with Savo again for the track Who, which came with a creepy horror movie inspired music video and boastful lyrics where Digga D said that he went to jail and the shooting stopped, and when they let him out, they started again, referencing that showdown with HRB soon after his 2018 release. Unfortunately for Digga, his lyrics appeared to be zero cap, and already next month he would be in yet another dangerous altercation, as his other ops, a gang called B-Side, all the way from the Bellingham area in southeast London, would engage in a car chase with him, chasing Digga in traffic and posting it live on their Snapchats.
Hey look at this fam, he's not stopping bro. Hey man, that Digga D doing dashes and that. Hey, what's going on man? Hey, dashing bottles and that. Hey, hold on, where's that bottle gone? Hold on.
Listen.
Hands on this few gazing. Hey, no, hold on. Hey, wait, hold on, where's he gone? Hey, look at this man.
Bro, man.
Hey fam, stop bro. Yo! Hey, look, get his face in there. Get his face in there.
Digga D would then comment on the chase on his own social media, claiming that he had actually initiated the encounter by throwing a bottle at his op's car and then dashing away in style, something that B-side members would then refute.
It's getting out of hand now, man. Man, stop trimming videos, yeah? And get the bit in where I pulled up right beside you like that. Lick the bottle, and man said, "Oh, what are you man doing?" You get it after that's how quick. Licking bottles behind me, yeah.
How could a man say man got bottled? Hey, fam, all the man them are good, bro.
Despite a willingness to shoot his ops at any given opportunity, it was clear that when it came to the internet games, Digga was also a world-class troll. As also around this time, Digga D would successfully troll the rapper S1 from 12 World and completely trash his reputation in the streets in one move. S1 had been going back and forth with Digga for quite some time, with one video circulating at the start of 2019 where S1 had an argument on live with a Digga fan and claimed that CGM didn't have the strength to shoot him.
Well on. You're unique. Bare chattings. Digga D's gonna snipe you unique. No one's sniping nothing, but them man they can't even slap off snipers, blood. Them man they ain't got no strength to slap off no sniper.
A little while later, Digga made a post seemingly showing blood on his Nike Tech tracksuit and a caption suggesting that the ops finally scored on him, with none other than S1 instantly posting a video where he would hang out of a car window telling his fans to go ask Digga what happened.
Real gang. Huh? Real CGM. CGMK, you know. Huh? Wet man down noom. Man down noom. Huh? Ask Digga what happened. Ask Digga what happened.
But as it turned out, S1 had done absolutely nothing. As it turned out, Digga D was trolling all along, accidentally spilling a Jamaican Magnum drink on his leg that looked like blood while he was watching a football match. He decided to post it as if he had been injured to see if any of his ops would claim the attack. This now classic moment in UK drill would single-handedly play a key role in destroying S1's, at the time, burgeoning rap career, as claiming this fake drill would completely trash his credibility in the streets. Messages would then circulate of S1 backtracking and saying that his friends knew that Digga was joking and that S1 apparently really thought one of his guys had actually stabbed Digga when he posted it. But from here, S1's street cred would take another hit after more questionable headlines came out, accusing S1 of allegedly committing a burglary and then going on the run. But Digga wasn't just causing trouble for no reason. He was still locked in and planning to drop major music. In April, he would release a breakthrough single from his upcoming mixtape called No Diet, and Digga would promote the song by using 2 emojis, a cross and a cup of coke, even making stickers with these emojis that he would then post himself, sticking one on the sign belonging to the block of a rival gang called CSB. Now, the track No Diet itself was actually a genius concept that saw Digga getting around his community behavior order, banning him from making gang music by using a metaphor likening coke from his trap house to Coca-Cola and assuring his fans and clients that his coke is not diet. And in the video, he would be seen whipping coke in a Pyrex jug using actual cans of Coca-Cola rather than illicit substances. No Diet would go viral and the music video trended at #1 on YouTube, with the song breaking records, becoming the highest charting solo drill track in UK history at the time. But anyway, No Diet became Digga's breakthrough moment in the music industry, landing him at number 20 on the UK singles charts, the highest charting position for a UK drill song in history at that point. But once again, Digga's past would come back to haunt him just as he was about to take his career to the next level, and he would end up locked up once again for breaching his CBO, something that he explained later in his BBC documentary.
I'm back in jail, I want everyone to keep listening to my song, don't judge me, you get me? Then I was on the exercise yard with one of my friends. He's got his phone out and he's taking a little snap and I'm in it. And I'm like, oh, that's leaked. Then I had a tape coming out. I said, I forget, I might as well just put it out.
While he was locked up, Digga's team would put out his mixtape titled Double Tap Diaries, a reference to double tapping a sawn-off shotgun, something that Digga was allegedly doing regularly enough to write a whole diary about it. Now, the tape broke even more records by becoming the highest charting drill project in the UK at the time, peaking at number 11 on the UK albums charts. This was an incredible career achievement for Digga D, but it would land while he was languishing inside prison, something that would sadly become a hallmark of his career. But sadly for Digga, being behind the wall didn't mean that he was getting a break from the violence, as in August, rumours would begin to spread online that Digga D had gotten stabbed in jail. These rumours would get a reply from bitter rival from HRB, Fredo, who would comment an ambulance emoji under one post, clearly happy about the news. It would later turn out that Digga had in fact been stabbed in the eye, causing him to almost go blind in one eye. Interestingly, one of the prison guards working at the time would later do an interview saying that the staff were actually told to protect Digga from running into rival gang members, but one day they failed to do this and he was stabbed in the eye with a pen.
I moved on to A-Wing
And on A-Wing, I came across Digga D. He was a big target for a lot of the gangs, so we had to ensure that when Digga D came out of his cell, he was coming out with the right people. While he was on E-Wing, when he first came into the prison, he was attacked on the exercise yard and somebody tried to stab him in the eye with a pen. And I believe he's got a scar in one of his side of his face from when this pen had actually penetrated.
This is a crazy injury considering the fact that Digga D himself had allegedly blinded someone after shooting them in the face with a shotgun, and Digga would even rap later on in his career that he never believed in karma until this happened, getting caught on the receiving end of a literal eye for an eye scenario. But not discouraged by his setbacks behind bars, in October, Digga would leave a message from jail saying that he was good and telling people to stop mentioning his name.
Come on, you know who it is. Digga, one and only, wicked man. Hey, but hey, listen, on a serious note, you don't need to stop saying man's name, video and that's like, all chatting. If you know what happened, you know what happened, innit? Cool, I got next. But my juice got spilled while I was spilling some juice, you get me? Like, all this chatting with these videos and all these guys, man, and all this, yo, like, leave it to the roads, man, like, when guys are asking me to use certain, I'm not even getting to it, innit? Just boom, that's it, innit? Leave my name out of it. Home soon, we'll link up, come on.
In March 2020, the news would finally report about the 2019 mass brawl that landed Digga in hot water in the first place, saying how it had been 7 thugs altogether involved in the brawl, with them altogether receiving a 17 years worth of combined jail time. They would also specifically focus on Digga D and Savo, saying how they were from the Ladbroke Grove gang, and while once again highlighting their violent music. According to the news, Digga D had received a 2.5-year sentence after pleading guilty for violent disorder. However, for whatever reason, this isn't even close to what Digga would end up doing, because already in May 2020, he would end up being released from prison again, with a BBC film crew then following his every move as they were shooting a documentary about his life, which would come out in November 2020 with the title Defending Digga D. But for Digga D, his return to music was a success despite all the controversy going on around him. The song titled Woy would be another breakout moment for Digga and represented a huge step up from his previous hit No Diet, but it also included a very interesting detail about him and his gang, because in early music videos 1011 aka CGM would use all kinds of colours and colour schemes, although the colour black was arguably the most common one. But around the time of releasing Woy, Digga and CGM would begin to lean strongly into making Crip gang references and repping the colour blue, and his music videos including Woy would showcase this theme clearly, dripping in blue bandanas and even paying homage to the original West Coast Crips from Los Angeles by driving around in a blue lowrider. And even behind the scenes at the shoot, some CGM members would aggressively claim Crip in a viral clip where they even shockingly claimed that they will murder somebody at a video shoot where somebody lost their life.
We're ganged off! We're ganged off! Yeah? Yeah? Crip blue! Yeah? We ain't no blooders, we're crippy, yeah? We crip man down, yeah? Yeah? We crip man down for anything, yeah? Kill man! I'm here with my dogs, yeah? You feel me? I'm here with my dogs, yeah? I'm here with my dogs, yeah? Crip, you know we winning this, you know we winning this. Yeah? From the Grove.
But anyway, Digga D and his Crip gang members in CGM would captivate the UK drill scene once again, and Woy quickly became another hit song in the UK, peaking at position 24 and staying in the UK top 100s charts for 12 weeks, the music video today sitting on a whopping 26 million views. This was a huge level up for Digga D, and it pushed him to the forefront of the UK rap scene as a mainstream artist. Glowing articles about him and his life would begin appearing in publications like The Face, which called him an unstoppable pioneer of the UK drill genre, and where Digga himself would claim that he was just having fun with music and that he didn't need to put on a gangster act. As the realest rapper in West London, who was a real shooter and stabber and didn't need to cap on the mic, Digga was indeed the most authentic voice in UK drill and didn't need to put on an act to appeal to the scene. However, not everyone could be as real as Digga D, and just as Digga was getting back on track after years of setbacks associated with his violent past in the streets, over in Shepherd's Bush, an inspired Central Cee was beginning to get traction in his takeover of the UK drill scene, and after taking inspiration from Digga D, crafting the perfect persona to appeal to the same audience of London roadmen and the youths that wanted to be roadmen, putting on a new persona like a freshly ironed Nike Tech tracksuit, muscling in on Digga's lane, and swiftly becoming the hottest new thing in the UK drill scene. And before long, Central Cee managed to single-handedly, musically overtake the realest gangsters in West London and beat them all at their own game. And as I'm sure you can imagine, Digga D was not happy about that. 2020 had been a golden year for Central Cee, with his songs Loading and Day in the Life becoming certified hits with millions of views just months after them dropping. And Central Cee kicked off 2021 with a bang, landing a spot on the Mad About Bars Best of 2020 list. Cee was praised as one of the most exciting MCs to watch, and with this major cosign, he wasted no time keeping the momentum going. In mid-January, he dropped his next song, Pinging, aka Six Figures. Now, this is actually one of my favorite songs of all time, and was even my #1 listened to song in 2021. The term pinging being the popular term in the British and Australian slang, describing the sensation of rolling hard off Molly. The concept once again leaning hard into Central Cee's drug dealer persona, with him proudly proclaiming that the drugs that he brought to the party had everyone pinging. The song's music video begun with Cench climbing on the awning of Goldhawk Road Underground Station, letting the world know that he really stands for West London, and in his bars, there will be plenty of violent gangbanging lyrics as well as more drug dealer talk, as he bragged about his young G's being ready to do stabbings and saying that while he's dealing drugs, his friends are catching ops, and calling for the release of a West London gangster nicknamed D-Roy. Pinging, just like his previous releases, performed well, landing and peaking at number 44 on the UK singles charts. He would follow this up with Commitment Issues, the 4th single from his upcoming mixtape. This drill-influenced love song strategically dropped just a few days before Valentine's Day, a combination that would see the track peak at number 9 on the UK singles charts, becoming Cench's first top 10 hit, ironically with a track focused more on women rather than the streets. The next month, on the 12th of March, Central Cee's first official mixtape Wild West was released. It came with a massive promotional campaign conducted by London agency Bay TV. In line with the Wild West theme, Cench was seen riding a horse around iconic West London locations like Goldhawk Road Station and Shepherd's Bush Market. A bizarre but eye-catching approach to promotion, the stunt even required Cench to take horse riding lessons. In line with the Western theme, they even created posters which began popping up around London prior to the mixtape's release that stuck to the eye-catching bright orange colour scheme. Cee collaborated with Trapstar for merch and also used their gear and the Trapstar font on his album cover. The independently released mixtape included 14 tracks in total, and it debuted at number 2 on the UK albums charts, lingering on the chart for over 42 weeks. The mixtape also made waves internationally, charting on 10 different charts around the world and earning gold certifications in UK and Denmark. Ellie Evans of The Clash would rate the project 8 out of 10, while The Enemy saw it as a sneak peek into the future of drill, giving it a 4 out of 5. Vice correctly described it as R&drill due to the mixture of street and female-focused tracks. The buzz around Cee's new releases reignited interest in his older tracks too, as at this point Day in the Life would reach number 44 on the UK charts, and mixtape tracks like 6 for 6 landed at number 16. And off the back of his first full-length release, Cench had quickly cemented his position as the most buzzing rapper in the UK, but beyond the tape's success, Cench would also have been making big moves with international collaborations. A few months earlier, Cee had his first international collab with the Italian rapper Rondo De Sosa on the track Movie. The song featured Rondo rapping with Fabio Foreign-like ad-libs in Italian, while Central Cee's verses remained in the King's English. Linking up with an Italian gangster rapper brought out Cench's tough side, with him rapping bars all about his friends facing incarceration and having PTSD from what he saw in the streets. This single peaked at number 26 in Italy, and Cench and his team were smart to use these international features with artists that had street cred around Europe to grow his fanbase beyond the UK early, a strategy that he'd elaborate on in his No Jumper interview.
Because Europe's massive, like, we shouldn't just be looking at London. Like, I had done the Rondo feature, was probably my first feature. I wasn't focused, I didn't care about doing no features in the UK like that. No one was really grabbing my attention. It didn't make sense to me either. So I just went across the pond and went to Italy and done music with them. It makes more sense. We can, me and Rondo can both capitalize off it more. Whereas if I'm doing a song with someone in the UK, 9 times out of 10, their fans already know me and my fans already know them. So what's the point really?
All of Central Cee's success in the UK and beyond must have been getting under the skin of West London's now second most buzzing rapper Digga D, but Digga D was by no means doing badly for himself at this point either. He'd ended 2020 well, getting out of jail and unveiling his new Crip persona on the hit song Woy, following that up in April with the song Chingy, a smart double entendre likening the name of Naughty's American rapper Chingy to the British slang word for stabbing, chinging. The song was an interesting attempt by Digga D to position himself to appeal to American audiences, something he would also do in the video, wearing outfits inspired by famous American sports teams. But despite the fun American concept, the song was still very much rooted in West London street violence, with Digga bragging of stabbing people in front of their friends, and he would rap a bar that would seem to be aimed at Central Cee, saying that they're copying him because he's doing it better. He would also diss longtime rival from Harrow Road, Fredo, with a censored bar referencing a time that someone from his gang would stab him. That would be followed up by his Daily Duppy freestyle on GRM Daily in December. This was interesting as Digga had complained on Instagram that GRM Daily didn't want to drop his freestyle and that they were siding with rappers who lie in their songs. This notably being posted posted not long after Central Cee had premiered his hit Loading video on GRM Daily's channel. In the final bar of this freestyle, Digga D would actually diss his enemies, saying that they're talking and he's shooting, and then in the final line of the song, which I think is a very direct diss to Central Cee and his earlier style of rapping, doing an impression of Dappy from N-Dubs to sound like a gun shooting and saying that he's getting Dappy with the gun. Elsewhere in the song, Digga referenced UK model Tennessee Thresher that he was rumoured to have dated, and saying that he flies women out from the US to get jiggy with. The police were indeed keeping Digga on a very close surveillance, as can be seen from numerous live videos that he would make of the police stopping him around this time. Digga's next hit song came in February when he linked up with fellow Ladbroke Grove MC AJ Tracy for the track Bringing It Back, a song where Digga raps extensively about drug dealing, specifically mentioning Molly and telling his fans to turn off those other rappers who lie in their songs. Bringing It Back was a breakout hit in the UK and went number 5 on the singles charts, topping Central Cee's previous record from Commitment Issues. From here, Digga would go on to drop his sophomore album Made in the Pyrex, which went number 3 on the UK albums charts. An amazing result, but perhaps a sore point for Digga's competitive side when Central Cee's Wild West tape would top it, going number 2 a month later. Perhaps this was the final straw, because within a couple of weeks of Central Cee's Wild West mixtape storming the charts, Digga D would leak a brutal snippet of a song that dissed Central Cee directly. Digga's beatbox freestyle saw him rapping over American rapper Spot 'em Got'em's street anthem of the same name, dissing Central Cee by name, saying who the F is he, and that Digga is the only wild in West. And then, in an insane example of self-snitching, Digga would brag that we stabbed his brother, went to jail for it, pled guilty and beat the case, as well as going on to diss Freddo again, saying that he got stabbed and lies in his songs. This was a massive escalation into the beef that up until then had been largely behind the scenes, but things would be fully out in the open when around this time a CGM member would drop a photograph of the police report from the incident where Central Cee's brother was stabbed. Central would seemingly respond with an IG story saying that talk is cheap, and another showing how Wild West had now passed 100 million streams. For his next international collaboration, Central would team up with Senegalese-born French rapper Freeze Corleone for a track titled Polémique, or Controversy. It would exclusively premiere on Drake's OVO radio station a few weeks after Digga's beatbox freestyle leaked, being played in full, with Drake's cosign being an extremely valuable push from one of the most popping rappers in the entire world. The music video would be filmed in Patine, northeast Paris, Freeze Corleone's hometown. Another dose of international street cred, this popping collaboration currently boasts 33 million views and also marked Central Cee's first official response to Digga D and CGM dissing him, with Centr asking on the song how people can hate on him when he doesn't even know they exist, and referencing Digga's Crip affiliations, telling him to keep bitching and thinking that he's Mitch from Paid in Full before somebody will come and cut off his fingers. And he ends his verse boasting how his Wild West mixtape had made him £1 million. This was a slick and dignified response, but Central Cee also had a petty side, and his next move would hit Digga where it hurt. On the same day Digga D released his Made in the Pyrex mixtape, Central Cee posted an Instagram story of himself with Fredo, along with the location tagged as Wild West. Clearly a picture with Digga D's biggest enemy on the date of his mixtape release was a strategic piece of trolling by the duo. The two had apparently met organically, bumping into each other by chance when Central Cee was filming his Kick Game sneaker shopping video, as Fredo is an investor in the store. Fredo was spotted in the picture wearing a Wild West hoodie, fueling speculation from fans about a potential collaboration between the two. And the month after Digga D's brutal beatbox freestyle dissing them both dropped, Central Cee and Fredo's track Meant to Be would come out in response, with this coming at a time when Fredo was riding high from his early 2021 studio album Money Can't Buy Happiness, which peaked at number 2 on the UK albums charts, also topping Digga D's record, as well as including hits like Money Talks featuring Dave that hit number 3 on the singles charts, and Ready featuring Summer Walker that hit number 21. The song Meant to Be was another hit for both Central Cee and Fredo that spent 5 weeks on the charts, peaking at number 17. But obviously the most important thing about this song was the message that it would be sending to Digga D, as Fredo rapped about putting money on people's heads, and Central Cee dropped some subtle shade on Digga, saying that he was up there but he's not anymore. After this strategic diss, Centr got back to business, dropping more music that would target the American audiences. His next single, Little Bit of This, came with a music video filmed in the States, and in the video, Centr's seen balling out, riding jet skis, playing basketball and golf, and spending some time with some fine Cali women. The track earned him another entry on the top 100 in the UK, with it hitting number 34 and spending 11 weeks on the charts. Honestly, this was a good look for Centr, and the video looked like something P. Diddy would drop. Ironic, as apparently around this little stint in America, Central Cee actually partied with the diddler himself after meeting him at an event where he also rubbed shoulders with Drake. Centr wasn't done with his US connections just yet. He would sit down for a legendary interview with Adam22 on No Jumper, with Adam praising Central Cee as a marketing genius.
You seem like kind of like a viral marketing genius on top of the music stuff.
Yeah. maybe. I do like the business side of things. Like I do like the marketing side of things. Maybe more so than the music sometimes. So maybe that explains why you see certain things going viral.
But back in the UK, Central would continue to score major features when Ed Sheeran and Fumes the Engineer recruited him and Tion Wayne for a remix of the hit song Bad Habits in August. The original track by Ed Sheeran was still at #1 on the UK charts at the time of the remix's release, and #5 on the US Billboard 100. This placement was another huge boost for Central Cee. Also during one of his trips to California, he was spotted with rapper OGeezy, with Central featuring on his album Jeezy World on the track Startin' Up, over a Bay Area beat. But collabs aside, Central Cee's next big solo hit would be huge too. The song Obsessed With You would sample Pink Pantheress' viral TikTok song Just For Me. Initially previewed on Central Cee's TikTok account, the preview would go viral, reaching 7 million views and 1.5 million likes in a single day. The single was then released as a surprise on September the 10th, debuting at #5 on the UK singles charts, matching Digga D's record for bringing it back, as well as charting in 8 other countries. The music video for the soppy love anthem now has over 166 million views, and the video would end with a teaser for Central Cee's upcoming sophomore mixtape titled 23. And September continued to be eventful for the West London rap scene, as Digga D would drop his aggressive YoungBoy-inspired track 2K17, starting out the song with a bold bar calling out fake gangster rappers, saying that if you can name someone that you've shot, he'll never rap again, and daring his ops to make him mad so that he can stab them again, and telling people to stop copying him, and even saying that he can't perform at the Wireless Festival without bringing his gun. Interestingly, Digga D was referring to the annual London Music Festival Wireless, a multi-day festival where on the first day Digga D would be opening up for Future, and on the second, Central Cee would be opening up for Skepta. And so after Digga D's threats to come to the festival with a gun, despite being booked for different days, when Central Cee turned up, he would be seen entering the venue with numerous members of the 12 Anti gang. Redditors would point out Twin from 12 Anti at the front of his entourage, suggesting that he had previously been allegedly stabbed by Digga D or one of his CGM affiliates. Cench made a grand entrance on stage, decked out in military camo and flanked by his mob of Shepherd's Bush tough guys, with the crowd going into a frenzy as he started rapping. This was a bold moment for Central Cee, as appearing so publicly with what looked like his gang amid the beef with Digga D, many people online began to speculate on Cench's potential gang ties in West London. People would make posts on Reddit speculating on his connections to 2 gangs in Shepherd's Bush, 1200 and 12 Anti, with some people claiming his ties to 1200 came through his brother Lil Bro, while his close friend YG links him to the 12 Anti gang. Redditors would highlight the age difference between Central Cee and his brother, with some saying that they couldn't imagine a 22-year-old Central Cee hanging out with the 18-year-old or younger members from 1200, but perhaps these were the shank-carrying young G's that Cench had sometimes been rapping about. Reddit discussions also questioned whether 12 Anti members started associating with Central Cee before or after his fame, with the implication being whether or not the gang actually got closer to him after the fame as a form of extortion, similar to what the 9 Trey Bloods had done to 6ix9ine. One user mentioned that Central Cee had been active in the scene for a while, but his only real street connection from early was indeed YG, the respected 12 Anti member whom Cench considered as a brother, with some further guessing that after Central Cee gained fame, other 12 Anti members began to see the potential and tried to join into the group. YG was clearly an OG, being seen with Central Cee as early as July 2016, appearing in Cench's Good Girl music video and many times after. He would also show up in the background of a November 2019 A2 Anti interview by French YouTuber Gav Morrison. Cench would of course also be seen first with 12 Anti member Fdot back in 2019 after he first stopped rapping with autotune, and the earliest we have Central Cee confirming his involvement with other 12 Anti members like Box 12 and A2 Anti was just a little bit before releasing Day in the Life in June 2020. Clearly Central Cee was tapped in with this gang from early, but it would be Wireless when he would debut his menacing crew. YouTube channel Drill Time TV would give the world a better idea of the dangerous tendencies of the company that Central Cee was choosing to keep, reposting Fdot and A2 Anti lyrics from a 2020 song called Rude, where A2 Anti raps a long list of all the enemies that he has injured by name. The fact is, Central Cee's ties to the gangs in the 12 postcode only enhanced his street credibility, and it gave him a defense to the rumors of him being a fake gangster that the likes of Digga D was pushing. He had clearly been associated with dangerous gangsters from West London from early in his career, and from here, he would continue the tough talk and drop bars that seemed to cast more shade on Digga D. On November the 5th, Central Cee took to Instagram to release his 23 freestyle, aka Don't Be an Effing Fool, where he would open by threatening his ops families and saying that they won't make it out the hood, later boasting about not seeing any other rappers being close to him, and in the same post, he would announce his much anticipated mixtape 23 would be dropping on February the 25th, 2022, and revealing an exclusive line of merchandise through his partnership with Trapstar. December proved to be another busy month for Central Cee, as he started with a feature on South London rap collective D-Block Europe's track Overseas, another hit collaboration that went number 6 on the UK charts, staying there for 25 weeks. Next, Cench fulfilled a long-time dream first mentioned by him over 6 years ago on his very first Street Heat freestyle, where he rapped about wanting to win a Mobo Award. He was ultimately nominated and won the Best Newcomer Award, taken to the stage with his manager YBs and a gang of West London goons. Trying to keep his speech short and sweet, Cench would joke how he wasn't really a newcomer after having put in 7 years of graft into his career by this point.
And the winner is Central Cee!
You know, I'm not really a newcomer though. But I'm accept it nevertheless.
After this, on Christmas Day, Central would drop a highly anticipated entry in GRM Daily's Daily Duppy series, dropping bars dissing his enemies and saying that he sees their comments but doesn't do the politics, and that he heard their mixtape and it wasn't good. Even this freestyle would hit the charts, peaking at number 35 and going on to become one of the top 10 most viewed Daily Duppy freestyles within just 4 months. 2 days after that, Central would link up with Digga D's Op Fredo once again for a Christmas giveaway in London, where they donated £100,000 worth of sneakers to underprivileged kids, and giving fans a preview of his second single from his upcoming mixtape as part of the promo. Soon after this, Central Cee would release the much-teased track Retail Therapy, another hit song that landed at 21 on the charts. But despite his UK success, Central hadn't quite cracked the US charts yet, but from here he would keep pushing, but so too would Digga D. Behind the scenes, by January 2022, Central's affiliation with the 12 Anti-Gang was stronger than ever, with him and Fdot becoming the closest within the group. His next release, Cold Shoulder, would be a track addressing the beef with Digga D and his association with 12 Anti, with Central rapping that he let the latest diss slide because it wasn't very good, but next time he's clapping back, and saying that it's sad that he loves his hood because he knows he doesn't really belong in the streets. The song made a splash, debuting at number 25 on the charts, and it would be the perfect teaser for Central Cee's second mixtape, 23, a mixtape whose title reflected both his age at the time of release, but also, as he explained to The Face, number 23 being synonymous with greatness in basketball, with the number being worn by legends like Michael Jordan and LeBron James. Central was paying homage to these legends of sports and trying to manifest similar greatness in music, with Central apparently having sported a 23 hand tattoo ever since the age of 18. The 23 project continued his signature branding strategy, this time featuring a bright yellow color, and Central would be seen shirtless on the album cover, sporting his prominent trap star tattoo across his torso. The excellent 14-track mixtape was an amazing piece of work, with numerous bangers on there that I've had in rotation for years now, but it also included some little pot shots at Digga D as well, like on the final track where he expresses his lust for Digga D's ex-girlfriend Tennessee. Digga would clap back on Instagram, saying how is this Central Cee's idea of payback? But regardless of the snide comments, 23 made an impressive debut, landing at number 1 on the UK albums charts, as well as producing several more hit singles that entered the top 40, including Cold Shoulder, Khabib, and Straight Back to It. But beyond the UK, it was also consumed globally, making its mark on 15 international charts, and showcasing Central Cee's growing influence in the music scene around the world. Enemy would praise 23, giving it a 4 out of 5, and noting that Central was on the brink of greatness. Loud and Quiet would give it an 8 out of 10, highlighting its significant impact, and to me, one of the standout moments on the project was the song Eurovision, named after the famously bad European song competition that launched the careers of ABBA, Celine Dion, and Tattoo. The track itself became the very definition of European drill, with Central recruiting a huge all-star Avengers-like lineup of European artists from France, Spain, and the UK, including verses from Central Cee himself and 12 Anti member A2 Anti. The track became a massive hit across Europe and boosted everyone involved's international recognition. Soon after his mixtape 23 soared to number 1, Central Cee would be seen celebrating with his 12 Anti affiliates. But apparently behind the scenes things would get complicated, because in June, 3 months later, it became clear that not everyone in 12 Anti was sharing in the celebrations, as a member called Doms from 12 Anti would tag Central Cee in an Instagram story with a cryptic message saying that the gang are going to need some things from you soon, with people immediately comparing it to the extortion of 6ix9ine by the 9 Trey Bloods. Doms would soon backtrack, deleting the story and tagging Centr again, saying that he was just joking. But while Centr was lauding it up at the very top of the UK rap scene, Digga D was continuing to have success and attempting to target the US and international audiences like Centr had done previously. In an April 2022 interview, Digga would speak on trying to take drill to America. This would be the month Digga D dropped his third mixtape, Naughty by Nature, featuring a track called Rambo with Orlando rapper Hotboy, another called G-Lock with Memphis Spitter Moneybag Yo, and one called What You Reckon, featuring Bronx drill pioneer B Love, as well as 50 Cent inspired tracks like Pump 101. And the cover art of the project was also pretty genius, reimagining the evolution of man, but showing Digga D evolving from being a child to a spliff-smoking teen with a knife on his hip, to a shotgun-toting shooter, and eventually his final form, a full-blown drill rapper. This had deeper meaning though, as Digga was essentially showing his real street CV and demonstrating the real struggles and phases that he had to go through to get to the point where he was holding a mic rapping about those experiences. No doubt a subtle diss towards those that he believed didn't actually go through the necessary experiences to become an authentic drill rapper. And from the first words of the very first intro track, Digga seemed to be dissing Central Cee for being fake, as Digga starts the tape letting everyone know that anything that you hear him rapping about is all true facts, and that the stuff other people rap about is all lies and exaggeration, ending by saying that he really lives the life that other people rap about. I think the album Naughty by Nature is another reference to this same idea, as Digga is essentially saying that he's naughty or violent and street just by his very nature, unlike the others who had to manufacture their street credentials. Naughty by Nature was a hard mixtape, and it really mapped out Digga D's life story, his trauma, and real life, and it's by all means a classic UK drill project. And this project also went number 1 on the UK albums charts too, putting Digga D back on track as contending with Central Cee for the top spot in the battle for the most successful rapper coming out of West London. And he would have another big hit soon after this with his collab Wasted with Brighton MC RD that hit number 6 on the singles charts too. But around this time, people were only just starting to wake up to how serious this beef was between these West London rappers. A little while after Digga D's Naughty by Nature project released, with billboards that were posted up around West London, 12 anti-gang members actually ended up vandalising one of Digga D's billboards promoting the album, spraying the names of Central Cee's mixtapes Wild West and 23 over it, along with hashtag #LiveYourMovie. Something that Central Cee himself apparently posted a picture up of online. Digga D would respond to these billboard vandals with a post that mocked them for vandalising a billboard rather than actually sliding in the streets. And a week after this, people online would begin to speculate on the deeper details of this dark and deadly beef. A video posted by YouTuber Kid Nerd would detail the violent beef between Central Cee and Digga D, breaking down details of the incident where Central Cee's brother was stabbed. Digga would then continue to try and keep things competitive. In July, he did a song with French rapper Timal called Richest, something that would later be seen by some as an effort to copy Central Cee's earlier strategy of collaborating with European artists. But unfortunately for Digga D, Central Cee had an ace up his sleeve, and his next song would launch him beyond the UK rap scene, putting him on the radar of the American rap scene too. And he was able to do all of this without any other artist helping him out. In July 2022, Central Cee shocked the world with a very unexpected track called Doja. His clever promotion of the song through TikTok and social media played a key role in its success, with the snippet of the song generating over 13 million views. Doja went viral on TikTok thanks to its unforgettable bar that went, "How can I be homophobic? My bitch is gay." Cench talked about the opening line on Genius and explained its virality.
In somewhat controversial, like, it just sounds like something I'm not supposed to be able to say. I think it's the opening line, the Doja Cat line, like, TikTok just ate it up.
Explaining that it was actually about his girlfriend, and he would elaborate on his stance on homophobia.
It is literally what I say, like, I'm not homophobic. My girlfriend is bisexual. She was like the first like proper gay person like I really like communicated with. It's quite known, like it's embedded in us to like kind of almost shun upon, which I don't think is right. I want to add in, bro, like personally, like homophobia, I think it's so weird.
All of this explained why the song was released just in time for the UK's Pride weekend. Now, if you ask me, this was a bold move to base a whole drill song around an anti-homophobia statement. In a genre of music that's generally been pretty unwelcoming of other sexualities, Central Cee was somehow making inclusive music that still had a street edge, following up that first bar with a tongue-in-cheek lyric about how his gun must be gay too because it keeps trying to take off men's tops, and how he loves his brothers and tells them he loves them even though he's straight. The track's beat would sample Eve and Gwen Stefani's classic hit Let Me Blow Your Mind, giving it an instant appeal to an American audience without even needing a feature from an American rapper. Cench would also become the first UK act to ever appear on the Lyrical Lemonade YouTube channel, with the Doja music video being directed by infamous rap video master Cole Bennett. The song itself also included Cench declaring his love for American pop rapper Doja Cat, with Doja even being caught reacting to the song on a few occasions.
I wasn't gonna say anything about the Central Cee thing, but it's really funny that somebody just said, I'm not trying to Doja that.
Appearing to enjoy the track and laughing and acting embarrassed in the club when it came on. Central Cee also hilariously trolled radio DJs, earning a repost from DJ Academics. Doja was a hit, and it swiftly debuted at number 2 on the UK charts, Central Cee's highest spot to date, but more importantly, Doja even reached number 12 on the bubbling under Hot 100 charts, just 12 spots shy of charting on the actual Billboard Hot 100. And the song would soar into the top 20 on the global charts too, landing chart positions in an astonishing 25 countries. But it didn't stop there. It went platinum in the US, the UK, and a host of other nations, even earning the major achievement of being the most streamed rap song in the world on Spotify during the week of July the 31st, a first for any UK rap song. And by July the next year, it would become the most streamed UK rap song on Spotify with over 470 million streams. Central Cee hadn't yet broken America, but he was making all the right steps and priming himself for a legendary run in the country. And despite Digga D's best efforts, his collaborations with American rappers, while good, didn't establish himself a presence in America like Doja did for Central Cee. But the thing is, even with both of these West London artists reaching the very pinnacle of the drill scene, dropping #1 albums and truly breaking free of their dark pasts in the streets, sadly, the violence would continue to play out in the West London gang wars, and soon Central Cee's success would be briefly derailed by the brutal murder of one of his closest friends from the 12 anti-gang. And naturally, while Central Cee was grieving, Digga D would take the opportunity to twist the knife and drop some of the most heartless and disrespectful lyrics the UK rap scene had ever heard. While Central Cee was enjoying the groundbreaking success of Doja, his biggest rival in the West London rap scene, Digga D, was seemingly attempting to repeat his successful formula, as he would release a song and music video with a French rapper called Timal. Just like Central Cee had done a track with a French rapper earlier called Freeze Corleone. And this similarity in strategy was not lost on Central Cee and his team. Soon his manager YB's would make a snarky post about it on Instagram, where he would quote lyrics from Cench's at the time unreleased song Bumpy Johnson, where Cench raps about his blueprint is working so that now his rivals are also going to Paris. And Central would later diss Digga D for copying him again on his debut album. Now this post by YBs at the time clearly got underneath Digga D's skin, as he would comment on his private Instagram account to a fan's question about this obvious sneak diss, saying that YBs is always dissing and that he should act his age, before also seemingly threatening to hurt him in real life. He would then also post on his main Instagram page a more implicit threat saying how these rappers and managers think that they will never see him face to face, together with a fist emoji. But Digga himself was no stranger to throwing subtle jabs at his ops, and in September he would post a preview to a new music video, which included an audio clip from a video that had been shot at the scene where a Harrow Road Boys member and Fredo's good friend Wu had been killed in July. Digga D was not afraid to put that violent energy out there. After all, that's what made him popular in the first place, but it would seemingly keep hindering his professional goals as an artist, and in October we would see yet another example of Digga D facing setbacks, as Digga's concert in Glasgow, Scotland would descend into a drunken and violent chaos, forcing the police to step in, no doubt making it harder and harder for him to book prestigious shows at good venues. And publicly, Digga's music was getting more and more belligerent too. His October deluxe edition of his Naughty by Nature mixtape came with the Squid Games inspired track Red Light Green Light that saw him take responsibility for numerous stabbings and calling everyone else his age in the rap game a puppy. Meanwhile, Central Cee would continue to drop hits that were much more for the girls than for the gangs, capping off 2022 with another huge commercial banger as he would release the song Let Go, sampling Passenger's 2012 sleeper hit Let Her Go. The track saw Cee tackling his own issues with love, the process of letting go, and the damage it leaves behind, with the song's two verses showing Sense switching between moving from an empty relationship and using his money to try and stay in the picture. The song would peak at number 6 on the UK singles charts and even go number 1 in France, showing that his overseas blueprint was indeed working, probably better than Digga D's efforts. It's safe to say that Central Cee absolutely dominated 2022, with his Spotify Wrapped revealing him to be the first UK rapper to reach 1 billion streams in a single year. But while his career was doing better than ever, in his personal life he was about to experience a major loss, and it was all connected to the gangs in West London, because at around 2:15 AM on the early morning of January the 26th, 2023, police were called to an address in Rosebank Way in the town of Acton in West London. Arriving at the scene, the police would find 12 anti-member and Central Cee's good friend Fdot, real name Fernando Johnson, with serious injuries, and unfortunately, despite the help of the ambulance services, he would be declared dead at the scene. The immediate news reports would not mention what kind of injuries Fdot had suffered, but a family member would give an interview to a reporter, telling him that he'd been ambushed by 2 people after stepping out of his car near his home, and then he was fatally stabbed. Moreover, the family member would say that the murder was not gang-related, at least as far as they knew. However, the neighbours would also report hearing a gunshot around the time when Fdot was attacked.
It's unclear if he was shot or stabbed. His family have said he was knifed in the street, but neighbours also reported hearing a gunshot early this morning. That's his car where he was, and you can see forensics have been at work, walking in and out. There's police officers on this street. Just show you down here as well. You can see medical kit there. There's medical bags on the pavement, suggesting that's where he received treatment from the London Ambulance Service once they arrived on the scene just after 2:15.
As the police would give out more information, it would turn out that Fdot had indeed not been stabbed, but shot, which given the difficulty of getting a gun in the UK, makes the murder seem a lot more likely to be related to high-level gang activity. The police would also say that they had arrested one man in his 20s a few days after the murder, but he had since been released on bail. Following the tragic news, people close to Fdot would post tributes on social media. His brother Jeezy would post an emotional tribute saying that he's been waking up crying since getting the news and describing the shock of seeing Fdot laying dead on the floor. Other famous names from the drill scene would begin to show love too, like the rapper Broadday from the Camden-based Active Gang, rapper SR from the Brixton-based Cyrac, and also Central Cee himself, who would post an emotional tribute on his Snapchat after hearing the news, saying how Fdot had wanted to be like him and that he wanted to be like Fdot, and that from now on, he would be doing the music thing in Fdot's memory. Cench had seemingly become close with Fdot after he had been released from prison at the end of 2021, making some fans argue that he had only been using Fdot to bring him street credibility, although, as many fans had pointed out, their friendship may well be much older than that, given that they indeed grew up in the same area, and Cench had already been seen hanging around with Fdot at least as early as 2019, just around when he decided to stop using autotune. However, when Cench began to get more famous, fans accused Fdot of getting deeper into Central Cee's entourage for clout. Cench's actions after Fdot's death make it seem like the two were indeed extremely close. Central Cee would change his Instagram profile picture to Fdot for an extended period of time and would even get a tattoo dedicated to him, as well as even making numerous expensive tribute chains and rings dedicated to Fdot and sharing those with his entourage, many of whom were affiliated with 12 Anti and were close with Fdot, with one particular video of Central Cee picking up his Fdot tribute pieces from A Jewelers that had a kind of disturbing tone and made it feel a little bit like Central was maybe a bit too happy to be discussing his deceased friend.
R.I.P. Fdot. My brother, man. Done it twice. And the chains, and the rings, Ooh. R.I.P. Fdot. Mad. 23, 24 years old from West London, absolutely destroyed the game. The best work with the best. You hear that? A Jewelers, baby. Check out the heart shapes and the bezels. And this is the greatest memorial pendants you're going to see in the world.
To be honest, it felt a little as if Central Cee was almost excited to finally be able to put someone who passed away on a chain. This is something that CGM member Striker would explain that other people had observed in a later interview, where he also inferred that Central Cee and Fdot weren't actually that close amid rumours that Central Cee had actually skipped Fdot's funeral to continue his tour.
And on rumour has it that he didn't go to Fdot's funeral. And
I don't know about it.
Yeah. So the rumour is that Fdot passed away, R.I.P. And he didn't attend the funeral. Instead, he continued his tour.
I don't even know. I don't really think them man was even dogs like that. You know when someone's like getting a little bit of a...
Yeah.
Trust me, man. And man come around. You know what I think? I think one of them, man, was his bedrooms. And then it's like, these men are kind of like, he's lit. Man are going to this.
Yeah.
I think like Sench is blowing up. So all these got little bush shoots have tried to like come around him. So I don't know. I might be saying something wrong, but I don't really think they was dogs like that. I'll be honest. So when I'm seeing man with chains of Fdot and jewels and that, I'm thinking, yo, was you really like that? I don't know. I didn't know that he didn't go to his funeral or something.
Okay.
Because his funeral was a big funeral. His family is like, they know bare people, innit?
Yeah.
And I remember his funeral was, you get me?
That's why it was such a big thing, apparently, that he wasn't there.
People are parading their stuff online. Come on, my boy.
You never know, he could have paid for the funeral, he could have...
Apparently, Central Cee had put money towards Fdot's funeral despite not attending, with lyrics on his debut album claiming that this was actually his first time booking a hearse. But despite the suggestions that Central Cee wasn't that close to Fdot, or was claiming to be closer to him than he really was to enhance his street cred, the reality was that this loss really hurt Central Cee. He claimed in later lyrics on his debut album that he was grieving heavily after getting the news, and in interviews he would open up about feeling survivor's guilt, telling GQ that he tries not to think about it, but it affects him heavily. Of course, not everyone would have such nice things to say about Fdot, because while he might have been beloved by the people close to him, or even a local neighbourhood hero as one newspaper would describe him, he was also a drill rapper, known not just for distasteful songs like Grenfell, where he threatens to leave his ops block destroyed in a fire, burning like the infamous council estate destroyed by a tragic fire, but also extremely disrespectful songs like Rude, where he and another 12 anti-rapper A2 Anti would read out a huge list of ops that they had attacked by name as if reading out the register at school, even saying how their gang had stabbed an op named Curtis while he was holding his son. Fdot was also in online rumours connected to numerous violent encounters with his rivals, many of whom were allegedly CGM members. Even back when he was at war with Digga D's 1011 gang, an image of Fdot and other Shepherd's Bush gang members had circulated amongst the community, warning residents to call the police immediately if they see him or his friends in the area, and therefore it wasn't a surprise then that longtime street rival Digga D would soon comment on Fdot's passing, posting NBA Youngboy's infamous diss song Dead Trolls, which was dedicated to King Von, who died in a beef with Youngboy and his crew. However, while Digga might have been happy to see his enemy dead, his gang CGM would seemingly have nothing to do with Fdot's murder, because in the online rumours, this murder was in fact considered to be an internal feud, where people close to Fdot had actually gotten him killed as a result of in-house gang politics. According to one rumour, a few months before the murder, Fdot had robbed another local Shepherd's Bush gangster and somewhat popular rapper called Marlo P, who's allegedly a member of a crew called the A40 Boys. They have apparently been active in the area of Shepherd's Bush for a long time, with Marlo himself having participated in the so-called road rap scene since the early 2010s before drill music became a thing. According to the online rumours, Marlo is a major trapper with a lot of money, which has allegedly led to him being robbed several times by some of the most well-known people in the UK drill scene, such as Fdot's friend, Broadday aka BA from the Active Gang, allegedly robbing him of a watch and chain at a Fredo music video shoot, and none other than Digga D and Savo aka J-Sav from CGM, with Digga D rapping about robbing Marlo on numerous occasions. Rumours about Fdot robbing Marlo would begin to spread already in September 2022, with the UK drillologists at the time making fun of the fact that the same guy could be robbed so many times, and after Fdot's murder, it wouldn't take long long for rumours to begin to spread that Marlowe had gotten his revenge, with UKL posting a breakdown of the complicated West London in-house beefs, with even the name of a specific triggerman being spread on places like Reddit, and a later post by Digga D suggesting that Marlowe P can no longer show his face in West London after organising this brazen hit. However, for now, officially the case still remains unsolved. But meanwhile, Digga D would also continue dissing Central Cee in music, dropping a song and music video titled Energy in March 2023, where he would rap about how someone can't rap about beef or the streets, so they rap about Nashville, this being a rather obvious reference to his ex-girlfriend Tennessee Thresh, whom Central Cee had mentioned in his song End of the Beginning, suggesting that he wanted her for himself. Energy was a single from Digga D's next mixtape, Back to Square One, which was eventually released in August 2023, including even more disses towards his new favourite op, like on the song Buying On 'Em, where he raps how he's been bullying someone for a long time, so that's not his enemy, before saying, how can you talk about violence in the streets if you mention that person's name, that name seemingly being Central Cee, which becomes obvious from the next bar where Digga mentions how the person is trolling him with his ex, but now his friend is in a cemetery. However, while Digga was throwing jabs at Centr, things weren't going so great for him either, as video would begin to spread showing Digga getting arrested once again. While this arrest would seemingly be only a short recall, it was yet another reminder that the police were always watching Digga and waiting to catch him slipping, and unfortunately, all too often, he was giving them easy excuses. Central Cee, on the other hand, was seemingly not focused on his local beefs, as he was travelling all over the world, performing in some of the biggest festivals, like Rolling Loud in California, Rolling Loud in Thailand, and the Beach Please Festival in Romania, which is advertised as the biggest hip-hop festival in the world. Central Cee was also doing numerous interviews with some major media platforms, like Vogue, where he would participate in their In the Bag series, showcasing his busy travel lifestyle, and XXL Magazine's ABC series, where he would mention having a tattoo that says Anti, hinting that he was indeed repping the 12 Anti gang, who he had surrounded himself with since becoming successful.
Hey, I'm saying Anti, I got Anti tattoo here, somewhere here. Antisocial.
Meanwhile, Digga was back in England, still very much in the street mentality, as he would go on Instagram Live while driving his moped in London, and while on the roads, he spotted Central Cee's good friend Wads, going on live on Instagram to press him for the whole world to see, and telling him to step out of the car so that he can say hello to him. And even noting himself how he has a CBO, clearly understanding what he was doing at this point could potentially lose him his freedom.
Say hello, bro. I'm by myself. Just say hello. Say hello, bro. Why would you mean follow jump out? Stop chatting, bro. I've been telling you jump out for a time and say hello to me, bro. See what I'm saying about nerves, bro? Suck your mum, I've got a CBO, bro. Suck your mum, fam. See goofballs. Why are you saying suck your mum and then rolling up the window, you? Hey, man, I just want to be your friend, fam. Brother. Come, wow, why are you doing all of this? But I'm trying to say hello to the guy, look. You see like this, bro? What a geek. What a geek.
At around the same time, Digga would also go on a posting tirade on his private Insta account, where he would seemingly feel even more freedom to express himself than on his main channel. Digga would wonder how sacrificing works, referring to the popular conspiracy theory that artists need to sacrifice someone in order for the world-controlling Illuminati to grant them success in the industry, inferring that this is what had happened with Fdot. He would continue by saying that he was only thinking about it because every other rapper from West London has a dead best friend, this being a subtle diss to both Central Cee and Fdot, as well as Fredo and Wu. Digga would then describe creating a story about British artists, demonic record labels, corrupt police, and influencers, seemingly implying that he was not part of this unholy cabal like his rivals. Digga, despite constantly being in the crosshairs of law enforcement, seemingly didn't care about going to war publicly with his ops, and soon he would return to music with one of the most disrespectful diss songs in UK drill history. As part of a deluxe version of his Back to Square One mixtape, he would release a bonus track called Blue Woo 2. The song, which also features numerous other CGM artists including Savo, TY, Rack 5, Horrid One, M Scum, Dodgy, and ZK, is filled wall to wall with disses towards their ops, including several disses towards Fdot, which were technically censored in order for CGM to avoid breaching their CBOs, but still rather obvious to anyone paying attention, like Savo mentioning how someone got killed due to an in-house beef, a reference to the rumour Fdot was killed due to robbing Marlowe, while TY would rap about he was happy that Fdot was dead, but was disappointed that it wasn't CGM who took his life. And while Digga's verse didn't diss Fdot, he would insult numerous ops and make reference to the murders of Steve-O Morrison and Wu from the Harrow Road Boys. Digga and his friends were clearly still very much focused on their local gang rivalries, and no doubt a heavy dose of bitterness towards Central Cee's success was leading them to diss Fdot heavily too. After all, by this point, Central Cee had massively surpassed Digga D, and despite them both having #1 mixtapes to their name, Digga D's Back to Square One didn't perform as well as his previous efforts, only peaking at #6 on the UK albums charts. And the following month in September, it would become clear that they weren't the only ones who wanted Digga D dead, as Digga's car would get shot up while he was on IG Live in Jamaica. After seemingly barely escaping this attempt on his life, Digga would then post photos of his car showing how it had allegedly been hit numerous times through the windshield and the rear door glass. He was lucky to be alive, and this would spark Digga D to go on yet another tirade on his Finstagram account, as he would post a long message towards his ops back in England, where he would claim that Fdot and Central Cee were the ones promoting violence to the youths, even though they've never done anything violent in the streets, even specifically mentioning how Central Cee had gotten shot at and his brother had been stabbed, as well as accusing him of putting Fdot's face everywhere but not even going to his funeral. Digga would then continue by listing numerous ops who, according to him, never shot anyone but still glorified violence in their music, making it clear that no matter how much Digga D might have been telling the mainstream media that the violent lyrics in his music were no different from the violence in action movies, in Digga's mind, violent lyrics were only acceptable if the artist was really living that life, and he was no doubt fuming that the people who hadn't even lived that life were portraying it in their music and getting further than him. In early 2024, the reality of living that life would come back again to bite Digga D once again. On February the 21st, Digga would go live on Instagram as the police were about to storm his house in the city of Lincoln, 3 hours north of London, where he was apparently living in a sleepy suburb far away from the violence that he was rapping about too.
You not want? What do you not want? Hey, what do you not want, bro? I'm here. I am here. I am here. Stop. What are you not doing? What are you not doing? What are you not doing? I am on the floor. I am on the floor. On the floor. What are you not doing? Stop, man. I am coming. Why are you not doing that? Yes, I heard you.
The following day, Digga would appear in court where he was hit with drug-related charges, including the supplying and importing of Mary Jane. It would later transpire that Digga and his friends had been flying in pounds from abroad and sharing it around despite the fact that he was a millionaire rapper. Unfortunately for Digga, due to his numerous earlier offences while on bail and his public profile, the court would decide to remand him into custody until the trial. Now that Digga was once again out of the picture, it seems that Central Cee would become much more comfortable in responding to the numerous disses, because in May, he would post a new video on YouTube called CC Freestyle, where Central can be seen rapping live on the classic 2007 instrumental by grime producer Flukes, while surrounded by 12 anti-goons in what seemed to be a lavish Airbnb. Clearly inspired by the dissing culture of the grime era, where rappers would often throw lyrical jabs at each other during live rap sessions, this song would include numerous shots at Digga D in particular. Central Cee would start the song by portraying himself as a seasoned roadman who you might catch jumping out of a car with his goons while sliding and making your heart skip a beat out of sheer panic, before making a reference to Digga, saying that when his songs come on, his gang skips it. He would then continue by telling Digga to surrender his blue flag because he's not a real Crip, a reference to the fact that CGM and their buddies often wear blue bandanas and call themselves Crips, before saying that Digga is just bitter that he has no hit songs like Central Cee does. He would also mock Digga by saying that he's only famous in London and not overseas like Sench is, going on to brag that he's a millionaire but he's not so sure that Digga even is, before saying F drill because that's not even what he does. Sench would then finish with a brutal bar saying that he gets booked in Los Angeles while Digga gets booked in Leicester, a very specific reference to the last show that he played in the unglamorous East Midlands city before his arrest, with some fans defending Digga in the comments by saying that these are the only venues that the police would let him play at. But Sench would then continue by rapping that he tells his young 12 anti-goons to lay off the gang lifestyle because they don't need to be on the block anymore and can live in big mansions, and pointing out that it's crazy how he grew up in West London where his pagans, meaning his ops like Digga D, are also from, and that the careers of some UK rappers are dead but he can't relate to that, before revealing that at this point in his career he's getting paid $1 million a show. He would then do another very pointed diss saying how his ops should feel embarrassed because of the numbers they do in their home field in London, Sench does all the way in Paris, and claiming that he's lapped Digga D quickly, pointing out that when he was still poor driving a Toyota Yaris, Digga D was already rich and driving a Lamborghini Urus, a car that Digga D has been seen driving on his social media for years, apparently buying it all the way back in 2021. Sench would then end the track by basically saying how he's lapped all the UK rappers and he is the reason why the UK is relevant. The video would quickly gain millions of views, and the news would soon eventually reach Digga, who would seemingly respond to it by simply stating how he's neither Kendrick or Drake, which seems to imply that he's not about to go back and forth with his ops in music, but would rather see him in the streets. Digga's friends would also chime in, like M Scum from CGM, who would post an ironic message telling kids how they shouldn't underestimate anyone, because in 10 years' time, the biggest nerd in their class might become the world's biggest gangster, an obvious jab to Central Cee. Then, as one drill page would post Central Cee's freestyle while saying how Digga's response track will be crazy when he gets back home, M Scum would again comment, this time saying how these pages need to stop comparing clowns like Sench to real guys like Digga. Horrid One would also post saying how he hates when rappers make it in music and start acting acting like they made it off the trap, pointing his words particularly at yuppies who were having an identity crisis. And CGM member Striker, aka Lou Gavels, would react to this lyric in an interview with UKL, saying that there's zero history of Central Cee hopping out of any rides and chasing ops, and explaining how he hates hearing Central Cee rap like he's active in the streets when he's not.
Recent freestyle, I think it's called CC Freestyle. He starts it with, "You don't want to see me hop out the skip." You don't want to see, and I believe, like, you know what I mean?
That was brave.
He said it believably. I believe that he will hop out the skip though, like.
You know what it is?
Flipping Central, flipping Cee.
No, bro.
He ain't hopping out the skip,
bro. No.
Ain't one story about him.
Bro, I don't know, but I'm 100% sure there's no story of him hopping out of any ride doing anything. Because I've actually heard him some grease, and I'm thinking, yeah, this guy's talking grease about like work's getting mashed and man will do this and do that, bro.
I've heard it.
This is what I'm saying. So you can't say that and like you haven't got like you know what it is? I feel like I'm promoting this violence thing, but I'm just have to say I'm not promoting this violence thing. But if you ain't got like juice on your blade,
you did say you respect him musically.
If you ain't got juice on your blade, or you ain't buying something, or you ain't. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't be a drill rapper. That's how I see it.
But while the beef between Central Cee and CGM was heating up, it would turn out that the real threat was coming from somewhere else completely. Because in May 2024, several members of Fredo's crew, the Harrow Road Boys, would stand trial, accused of conspiring to buy guns to kill their rivals. With Fredo also being named in the trial as a co-conspirator who had allegedly participated in the conspiracy to line up their ops, with Digga D being mentioned as one of these people they were trying to have killed by name. Fredo, who had in fact been locked up in Dubai of all places after getting busted with dope there in October 2023, ultimately getting released and seemingly choosing to stay in Dubai to avoid the charges in England, with it being claimed that despite pump faking that he was planning to return to the UK, Fredo might actually be arrested on site if he did go back, and it's possible that if he wants to keep his freedom, he might have to remain in Dubai for the rest of his career. Things are also not looking great for Digga D, because during his December 2024 court appearance, the prosecution would accuse him of running a commercial-scale drug operation, importing and supplying up to 60 kilos of the loudest of the loud to wholesale to buyers in the UK. And at the end of January 2025, Digga D's guilty plea would ultimately be accepted, and he would be sentenced to 3 years and 11 months in prison. Ultimately, this would be the end of the line for Digga D's career for the time being, and he's ultimately dealing with the inevitable consequences of leaning closer into the streets than into his artistry. Many people online express frustration and disappointment with Digga D's actions and squandering his massive opportunity in the music game.
You are better than this. I think that face tells us that he knows he's better than this, bro. He knows this is not life. He knows this. There's so much more to life than this. You got millions waiting on you when you come out, man. You got the talent, you got the fans that will still be there. Like, man, this is just so depressing to see, man. Like, why are we like this? Like, why are we so lost?
Where Digga ended up is a perfect encapsulation of the hard decisions that young people have to make when they're growing up in the hood. Digga had the perfect opportunity to avoid going to prison ever again, but his law-breaking bad habits just kept catching up with him. I do have some sympathy, as Digga didn't choose to get sucked into the streets so young. He was born into the gangs, and arguably he's been institutionalized by the outlaw mentality, spending most of his formative years knowing no different. Contrast that to Central Cee, who arguably embellished a lot of his street connections and now lives a seemingly legal lifestyle as a rapper. He's not facing the kind of consequences that Digga D is facing, and he's been able to continue his career and flourish with his freedom. Perhaps you could argue that this is very unfair, as Digga D, with all of the baggage and trauma of actually growing up around the violent gang wars, probably made it very hard for him to break out of the cycle and stay out of prison. He's authentically from that place where you have to take risks and break the law, and he doesn't know any better. Central Cee, on the other hand, might have sold a bit of drugs, but he started claiming his gang for fashion later in his career when it suited him. And he doesn't really have to deal with the real baggage and trauma that Digga D's been carrying around, and as a result, it's never really been an issue for Central Cee to stay out of trouble. And no doubt, it must be incredibly frustrating for Digga D, the real victim of street trauma, to see his rival become a caricature of the real-life struggle that he had lived and have even more success in drill than the people who lived and built the drill scene from the ground up. But ultimately, life is unfair, and Digga D has to accept accountability for his actions. And while he rots in prison, facing the consequences of indeed being too street for his own good, Central Cee's career has in the past few years gone to a whole new stratosphere, with him essentially becoming one of the most popular rap superstars in the world and finally doing what no UK rapper had seemingly been able to do for decades despite their best efforts, establishing a foothold in the American rap game too, and making history by finally bridging the gap between the UK and US rap fans. After Central Cee dropped Doja and went viral in the US, he was finally on the path to being taken seriously by the American rap scene. And in August, while Doja was having a record-breaking run on streaming platforms, he announced that he would be doing his first headlining tour throughout the US, leaving his European tour for later. His still-loading world tour began in Chicago and concluded in LA before heading back to Europe. In September, Central Cee kept the momentum alive with his LA Leakers freestyle, where he would be cleverly freestyling with lyrics that decoded UK slang, translating his British roadman phrases into their American equivalents. And while his name was in everyone's mouth, Central Cee dropped the surprise 4-track EP No More Leaks on October the 13th, responding to hackers allegedly leaking his music, something that definitely happened and wasn't just a manufactured narrative to hype the project.
Hey, it's done. No more leaks. I don't know what creep, I shouldn't even be smiling, I don't know what creepy youths thought it was okay to try and leak my music, yeah? Try to get one up on me, try to get me down, try to take money out of my mouth. It's not happening, I'll tell you that from now. Had your fun, I let you have your fun, that's cool, but it's done. No more leaks. And you know what, it's none of the guys, I'm giving the guys the benefit of the doubt. We don't rock like that. Some hackers trying to get in my shit, but I changed my passwords, 2-step authentication, you're not getting in my shit no more. So you lot, enjoy that. 4 songs out on my Spotify right now. No more leaks, and that's that.
Some commenters called this marketing genius, and it did seem that every time he dropped, he always conveniently had a little pre-prepared narrative to go along with it. But towards the end of October, the EP's track Chapters made a brief appearance on the charts, peaking at number 69, but his other track One Up would fare significantly better, soaring to number 17. And at the end of November, Central would bag a whopping 4 nominations at the 2022 Mobo Awards, taking home 2 wins, beating out Dave, D-Block Yura, and of course Digga D in the award for Best Male Act, as well as winning Video of the Year for Doja. And all of this success translated into other milestones when at the start of December, Cench became the first UK rapper to achieve 1 billion streams in 1 year. That was of course followed by Cench's next hit, Let Go, which smashed the European and English charts, grabbing number 1s in France and Portugal. But still, Cench and his team had set their sights on the world's biggest music market, the United States. He would make more strategic moves like appearing on infamous American streamer iShowSpeed's platform, catching a viral moment as Cench left the call after Speed got sus.
Can I ask like a personal question?
Yeah.
Like,
no, don't ask nothing stupid, bro. Don't fall off track, bro. We started this phone call.
No, just me. So like, what is like the size of like your...
Despite conquering the UK rap scene with ease, ever since the start, Central Cee had seemingly always had the ambitions of being the first UK rapper to break through to America. Many Brits have tried and failed to establish a genuine organic fan base in the USA. I mean, I remember as a kid traveling to the US on vacation with my family and being amazed to see copies of Dizzy Rascal's Boy in the Corner and The Streets' original pirate material in American music shops. But Dizzy Rascal and The Streets never really made the full transition to the US, despite landing small successes there on the Billboard charts. There's been many attempts since to create crossovers with the US, with one of the most successful being UK rapper Tiny Temper, who had a crack with the track Trampoline that featured Atlanta rap icon 2 Chainz, but that failed to chart. But Tiny had other successes, scoring a Billboard Top 100 in 2011 in a collab with Wiz Khalifa, and his own hit single Written in the Stars hitting an impressive number 12 on the Billboard charts, with that song being the most successful US chart performance of a UK rapper in history to this day. The most successful US-UK collab before Cench was closely contended by Giggs and Drake, as well as A$AP Rocky and Skepta's Praise the Lord, with these collabs reaching the 40s in the US Billboard charts. But this was all about to change. When Central Cee started taking his career to the next level, apparently he even planned out his songs to have more appeal to the Americans. According to a Guardian interview, Cench claimed to write his bars mathematically, specifically choosing words that Americans could understand easily. And with his next musical run, Central Cee would not only begin to penetrate the US culture, but also completely lap the UK scene and set new records. Setting social media on fire with an Instagram story post on March the 18th, Cench shared a screenshot of his iMessage chat with Dave, one of the most respected rappers in the UK scene. Dave and Cench's relationship spanned all the way back to 2016, when they collaborated on the remix to Spirit Bomb by AJ Tracey, with Dave also getting a producer credit on Cench's 23 mixtape, specifically the track End of the Beginning. With big news coming through an Instagram post by Dave at the end of May, showing photos of himself and Central Cee shooting a music video, including a release date of June the 1st for what would end up being the biggest song of the summer. The Latin-infused summer anthem, backed by a string melody combined with a bouncy drill beat, was released and completely changed the game. The song was Central Cee and Dave's collab, Sprinter, and it would include a slick music video consisting of Central Cee and Dave going back and forth trading verses in exotic locations like London, France, and Monaco. Sprinter was a certified hit, and with the world just starting to digest what the UK charts later crowned the song of the summer, only 3 days after the release on the 4th, the music video for Sprinter was already over 6 million views. Central Cee teased the surprise release of Split Decision, a 4-track EP by him and Dave via an Instagram post captioned Midnight. Released under Central Cee's Live Yours label and Neighbourhood Records, the EP would drop on Dave's 25th birthday and just a day after Central Cee's 25th birthday on the 4th. The project stood as a testament testament to how far Central Cee had come in his career. The Split Decision EP was a monumental success, and even though its shorter length as an EP kept it off most of the album's charts, it still made waves globally, charting in Austria, Denmark, and Switzerland, and reaching number 6 on the US Billboard Heat Seekers album chart that highlights new and developing artists. By the end of 2023, it was recognized as one of the year's best projects, ranking at number 18 on Complex's 50 Best Albums of 2023 and at number 7 on Billboard's Best Rap Albums of 23. The tracks Trojan Horse and UK Rap both broke into the UK Top 20, with Trojan Horse peaking at 12 and UK Rap at 13, but the crown jewel of the EP was of course Sprinter, which shattered records with 13.4 million UK streams in its first week, the biggest debut for a UK rap song at the time, surpassing Stormzy's dance-inspired banger Vossi Bop. Sprinter debuted at number 1 on the UK charts, giving Dave his 3rd chart-topping song and Central Cee his 1st, spending 10 weeks at number 1 and becoming the longest-running UK rap single to hold the top spot in chart history. And while it didn't crack the official Billboard Hot 100 in the US, Sprinter peaked at number 2 on the Bubbling Under Hot 100 chart, meaning that it was just shy of making the full-blown charts itself. But it also made history in Canada, landing at number 5 on the Canadian Hot 100 and becoming the highest charting British hip-hop single of all time in the country, surpassing MIA's Paper Planes. Globally, Sprinter dominated charts in other countries, going number 1 in New Zealand, Switzerland, Australia, and Ireland, and number 2 in Sweden and Denmark, as well as making notable appearances in Austria, Portugal, and beyond, ultimately charting in over 16 countries. And to cap it all off, Sprinter earned certifications in 13 countries, including going triple platinum in Greece, double platinum in the UK, and platinum in the US, solidifying its status as a global phenomenon. Central Cee's meteoric rise didn't just captivate the UK, but it was now resonating globally. A few months after the release of Sprinter, even legendary rapper J. Cole was seen vibing to the track, and in a surreal turn of events, even former President Barack Obama included Sprinter on his annual playlist of favourite songs. By next year, Sprinter had cemented its place in history, becoming the most streamed UK rap song of all time, dethroning Central Cee's own record with Doja. Riding high on this success, Central Cee achieved another groundbreaking feat in June, when he was named as part of the XXL freshman class, making him the first male UK rapper to be included, and the second UK rapper on the list since Stefflon Don was included in 2018. Now, being a XXL freshman is kind of weird, just like how Cench said when he won his MOBO for Best Newcomer, he wasn't really a newcomer. It would be strange to call a rapper who at this point had been making music for 10 years a freshman, but it was still a good look for Cench. Online discussions would point out that both Central Cee and Glorilla were already bigger than the XXL freshman list itself. However, still recognizing the importance of the inclusion, Cench would take the time to introduce himself formally to his new American audience.
International. If you haven't noticed by now, then I'm from the UK. I think being an international artist is a mission that I'm currently on, so yeah, international.
And when speaking with XXL, he acknowledged the historical importance of being on the list, calling it a big statement for UK rap. Arguably, while he was no longer a freshman musically, he was indeed a freshman to the US market, who was just beginning to respect the budding British MC. But while all this was going down, Central Cee was making his biggest power move yet. On June the 23rd, 2023, he signed a 2-album joint deal with Columbia Records in partnership with Sony Music UK. This would mark the end of his allegedly independent streak as he transitioned to working with one of the biggest labels in the world. Hip-hop's top commentator DJ Academics would take to a live stream talking about the deal and its rumored amount.
I always heard the number he wanted was at least 20, and I'm hearing that he got $25 million in terms of a record contract.
The deal, rumored to be worth $25 million, was an insane amount, which Cench would later confirm in lyrics on his song Limitless. DJ Academics broke down the specifics of the deal, highlighting Columbia's role.
He's from the UK. The deal he signed with Columbia Records supposedly is only for the distribution of his music in the US.
And giving his thoughts on Central Cee's success in the US.
You remember there was a time that people used to look at UK artists and maybe it was the accent or whatever that kind of fucked them up. I think Central Cee is the guy. By the way, obviously, you know, I love, you know, like, for example, Dave. Like, Dave's my guy from the UK as well. But, you know, I think Central Cee kind of connects with this young kind of drill, very popular TikTok wave.
With the backing of Columbia, Central Cee began laying the groundwork for his highly anticipated debut album, Can't Rush Greatness. The momentum carried into July 2023 when Central Cee achieved his first US chart success through a major collaboration with one of the first US artists that fully embraced the UK scene, Drake. But it wasn't just watches. Drake was giving Central Cee opportunities as well, deciding to put him in his Nike Nocta campaign after meeting him in 2021, as well as giving him a cameo in his Jumbotron Stuff Poppin' music video, and even brought him out during a performance downloads in the UK. Cench and Drake had linked up again during Drake's It's All a Blur tour, stop in New York, where this time they would put together a full-blown musical collaboration, which came in the form of a joint freestyle on the New York-based radio station and YouTube channel On The Radar, which would prove to be one of the most significant cosigns of Central Cee's career to date. On the track, Cench boasted about his rapid success, comparing his earnings to that of professional athletes from the NFL and NBA. In the UK, this freestyle peaked at number 26 on the charts, but its impact extended far beyond the UK. Most importantly, it marked Central Cee's first entry onto the US Billboard Hot 100, debuting at number 80. And while it only stayed on the chart for a week, it was a huge milestone for Cench, confirming his presence in the US market. And Drake's support didn't stop there. He would invite Cench to perform on the final 16 dates of his It's All a Blur tour, which became the highest grossing hip-hop tour in history at the time. Cench performed at every show, delivering tracks from his catalogue like Day in the Life, but after the tour, his momentum didn't slow down. In late October, he featured on the Kid Leroy's track Too Much, alongside BTS member Jungkook. This international collaboration would pay off, with the song spending 5 weeks on the UK charts, peaking at number 10, and becoming Cench's second entry on the Billboard Hot 100, outperforming his previous entry with Drake by 36 spots, peaking at number 44 and remaining on the chart for an impressive 6 weeks. Cench's next feature came in November 2023 on Pink Pantheress's track Nice to Meet You, peaking at number 20 on the UK charts, and Cench wasn't showing any signs of slowing down. But in February 2024, he made a rare misstep, dropping the soppy love song I Will that marked a huge change in style and tone from the usually gangster Central Cee, choosing on this song to dust off the auto-tune and have a little sing-song. This is without a doubt Central Cee's worst song. In my opinion, at this point, him and his team were probably drunk off success and thought for a moment that they could abandon the tough guy persona that he'd just spent 10 years building, instead positioning Central Cee as a pop singer to try and capture the hearts of his Gen Z audience of TikTok scrolling teenage girls. I can just imagine Cench and YBs rubbing their hands together like Birdman in the meeting about this song. Now, the track would peak at number 18 on the UK chart, so it wasn't necessarily a complete failure, but the song was noticeably absent from any of his major projects, and in my opinion, it represented a massive creative misstep by Cench and his team. Unanimously voted as the worst song of his career by fans in his subreddit, from here Cench and his team would correct course and put him back in the lane that was working for him. Cench continued to chase the US market, linking with J. Cole for a collab called HYB, with the song being the lead single for J. Cole's surprise mixtape, Might Delete Later, released the same day. Cench would show his gratitude by sharing a heartfelt Instagram story of his messages with J. Cole, captioning it with a goat emoji. HYB itself became Central Cee's highest charting US entry at the time, peaking at 35 on the Billboard Hot 100, meaning that he had officially surpassed both Skepta and Giggs' chart records for US collabs. But he missed out on beating the record set by Dizzy Rascal's previous collab with Shakira that came in at 3 positions above on the charts. But that record wouldn't last for long. Having scored more wins in the States, it was soon time for Cench to make his biggest move yet. On May the 23rd, Cench dropped the lead single from his upcoming album, the song Band for Band, featuring Atlanta rapper Lil Baby. On a high-energy drill anthem that Billboard described as a certified trunk rattler, the hook was instantly catchy, with Cench and Baby going back-to-back, bragging about how no one has as much money as them. And the music video was epic too, showing Cench and Baby touring around London, with Lil Baby holding wads of British pounds and flexing expensive jewelry and getting around in a convoy of Lamborghini Urus SUVs. The song was a massive success, and it peaked at number 3 on the UK charts, spending 13 weeks on the charts, but more importantly, in the US, it peaked at number 18 on Billboard and spent an insane 17 weeks on the charts. This made Band for Band Cench's highest charting position in the US so far, and the second highest charting UK rap single in history, with Tiny Temper's record at number 12 still having Cench beat. Regardless, this was a huge milestone. Globally, Band for Band charted in at least 14 countries and broke records, including the biggest streaming day for a UK rapper on Spotify with 5.26 million streams, a record previously held by Cench's own track Sprinter with Dave. And by the end of the year, over 390 million global audio streams, it became the biggest selling UK rap song of 2024. Cench's Billboard breakthrough would be followed by another high-profile collab with Bronx spitter Ice Spice on the track Did It First, which was part of Ice's Y2K album. While the album didn't really do as well as people were expecting, her collab with Central Cee, Did It First, definitely did stand out, landing at 15 on the UK charts, and in the US landing at 51 on Billboard. But Cench wasn't just making headlines for his music. In August, he was spotted with legendary Chicago rapper Lil Durk, sparking rumors of a potential collab. In early September, Cench would release his next single, Moi, featuring British singer Ray. This track, with elements of dance music, showcased a unique blend of singing and rapping in both English and French. Moi spent 3 weeks on the UK charts, peaking at number 38, and by October, the rollout for Cench's debut album, Can't Rush Greatness, was in full swing. Cench announced the album in the most American way possible, live during an NFL football game.
I'm inspired by Central Cee's highly anticipated new album, Can't Rush Greatness, coming soon.
And later, Cench confirmed the album cover and release date on social media, with the cover showcasing a legendary chain designed by leading London ice makers A Jewelers. On the 24th of January 2025, Central Cee finally cemented his place in the history books of UK rap, releasing his debut album Can't Rush Greatness. The project truly lived up to its name. 11 years in the making, Cench certainly didn't rush, but he certainly did deliver greatness. This project, in my opinion, is probably the best UK rap album that's ever been released. And that's not just me glazing Central Cee, but the mission for this project was clearly to create a rap album that was quintessentially British, British and stay true to Centre's identity, something that perfectly encapsulated British rap culture in 2025, packaged up in a way that would appeal to fans all over the world, especially in America. The album was a masterclass that saw Cee planting the flag and creating something that no British rapper had ever done before. A rap album that would cut through the cultural barrier and give the country something to be proud of and get behind. And from the first song, Centre made his intentions clear. From the very first bars, bragging how every time he touches the mic, he reaches people all over the world, from Europe to Asia, the Middle East, and Oceania. He would also drop numerous references to American culture throughout the song to appeal to that audience too, shouting out people like Lil Durk and King Von, and bragging how the moves that he made in America helped other UK rappers do it, and also firmly bringing it back to the UK culture with tongue-in-cheek bars, comparing drillers to wizards from Harry Potter, and saying that the gangsters are running around hunting ops with wands. He would stoke some controversy, dissing fellow white British rapper H, and moaning how he was pissed to lose at the Brit Awards to H, as he was planning to say long live Fdot in his speech. It was an interesting throwback to diss H, considering Centre's earlier bars about demanding the same record deal that H was given. Now, H was really not happy about this diss, and he would clap back in a savage diss track where he would accuse Central Cee of being a fraud, not writing his own lyrics, and even telling him to go slide on Digga D. He would also drop an iconic bar saying how Americans always laugh when he says bottle of water, bottle of water, bottle of water, bottle of water. The next song was his blockbuster collab with 21 Savage titled GBP, an anthem that was probably strategically crafted to appeal to crypto nerds with lyrics referencing GBP and USD currencies. But interestingly, this song was heavy on the gang talk, as the hook had Central Cee brag how he could have someone shot in front of a crowd for £100,000. Elsewhere in the song, there was extensive references to firearms, and once again, this song sounded like it was planned strategically to appeal to Americans, with Cee rapping all the street hustles that he would have done if he was from different parts of the States. He would also diss Digga D again, saying that if his ops were nominated for the Brit Awards, then he would have taken guns there, this being a reference to his 2022 nomination for the song Obsessed With You, and the fact that Digga D has never been nominated for a Brit Award of any kind. The collab with 21 Savage itself was genius, as Savage had gone viral a few years ago when it emerged that he was actually born in the UK before moving to Atlanta as a child, and in his verse, 21 would mirror Central Cee, dropping back-to-back bars referencing UK culture. Now, GBP didn't quite match the hype of Centre's explosive collab with Lil Baby band for band, but it still ended up landing him another entry on Billboard's Hot 100 Songs charts, landing at number 92. The tough talk would continue on the song Up North, where Cee raps about his crew sourcing firearms from the more dangerous northern parts of England, shouting out his gang comrade K1, saying that he'll jump out of cars and kill people, and seemingly admitting to carrying a tactical knife personally and being in parties with his friends carrying loaded guns, as well as dropping some more shade on Digga D, saying that he's living the high life in America while his ops haven't been out the hood, and when they drop music he listens carefully because he's studied the art of war. The song would end with an outro speech from prolific Birmingham ex-armed robber Broadday Blakes, who speaks about how dangerous the gangs are up north compared to the rest of the UK. The album also included the much anticipated collab with Lil Durk, along with a music video released on the same day of the album and recorded on Durk's trip to Europe just before he was arrested for a murder for hire, which I covered in my last video. The track Must Be was one of the most interesting songs on the album, as it seemed to be Centre's opportunity to both address the allegations of his street persona being fake, but also, I feel if you read between the lines, in some places, it seems like Centre's actually admitting to faking his street ties for the sake of success. The song starts with a snippet from the Realer Than Most podcast hosted by Young Spray, in an iconic clip where Spray asks his co-host Chronic, what's the definition of real? With him replying, shooting people for your friends is the realest thing you can do.
What's your definition of real? Or what do you look at as real?
Shooting people for your friends.
Shooting people for your friends.
Yeah.
After this, Centre starts rapping, responding to the clip, and asking the audience what's their definition of real, going on to say if it's something like them, then he must be fake. Now, I think this is interesting because if you consider the bars that come right after this clip, Centre's essentially saying that if shooting people for your friends is real, then he must be fake. Or another interpretation could be that he's referring to Digga D, saying that if he's what people in West London consider to be real, then Centre must be fake by comparison. This is relevant because Digga D is certainly someone who shoots people for his friends, and as the song goes on, there's more and more lyrics that make me think this entire track is dedicated to Digga. As Centre goes on to end the hook, saying that when his ops ask where he is, he actually gave them an address, but they never turned up and just continued talking on the internet, and following that up by saying that the whole point of getting rich was to get out of the hood and out of the hood mentality. He goes on to rap that beefing over postcodes and going to jail, leaving your mother alone, struggling, is what's really fake. Clearly a shot at Digga D and his incarceration at this point. Centre goes on to say exactly what his ops say about him, that living a life that isn't portrayed in your music is fake. And again, in the lyric I think's going at Digga directly, inferring that he lied when he claimed that he stabbed his brother and calling him fake. There was a lot going on the album, but even outside of it, Central Cee was doing the most to promote it, popping up in a very well-timed live stream with Plackboy Max, grabbing a viral moment after his previous stream with Fabio Foreign and Lil TJ went left. Now, I personally love the Can't Rush Greatness album, and I was incredibly proud of Central Cee and what he had done for the UK rap scene, but of course, the most important thing was the numbers. Central Cee would land the #1 spot on the UK charts, but that was hardly a surprise. Numbers-wise, he scored the biggest streaming day one total of all time for a UK rapper on Spotify, but sales-wise, he ended up moving a total of 42,000 units. units. Now, a great achievement in this day and age, but significantly less than other pioneers of UK rap like Tiny Temper, who scored 85,000 first week sales on his Discovery album. Now, I'm not trying to talk down his achievements, but the fact is, Cench's debut was simply not as big as Tiny Temper's, and even other UK rappers like Stormzy had Cench beat in first week sales on his recent album launch too. But regardless, Cench had already had a #1 in the UK with his earlier mixtape, and his album going #1 was certainly inevitable. But the real test would be his performance on the US Billboard charts, and in the end, despite all of the talk of him doing bigger streaming numbers than Lil Baby's #1 album, Wham!, Central Cee's album didn't reach the same levels of success as Lil Baby's. Can't Rush Greatness ended up moving around 37,000 units in the US market, going #9 on the US Billboard charts. This was an interesting result, because from a UK perspective, this is still a monumental win. This was arguably the most successful UK rap album on the US charts in history, with this being the first ever Billboard top 10 that a British rapper has ever achieved. And from the perspective of handicapped UK rappers who are rarely taken seriously by Americans, this was indeed a win. But in reality, for all of Central Cee's boasting of dropping music and competing with Americans, and reports of him having better numbers than Lil Baby, failing to hit that #1 spot in America was probably a little bit disappointing. Yes, he's by all means the most successful rapper to have ever come out the UK, but really, he didn't quite manage to compete with the American rappers on the level that some people were expecting. We've definitely got to give Cench a big pat on the back for going top 10 in America, but in many ways, Cench's next move is probably going to be the hardest. Because now the question is, will he be able to evolve beyond drill music and make more commercial music that can take him even further in the US charts, like British musicians from other genres? Or has he taken this persona as far as it can go? Central Cee hasn't quite made it to the top yet, and arguably he's got to be careful about the next steps that he takes and make sure that his ego doesn't get ahead of where he actually is. His recent comments after the release of the album, claiming that he was the reason that Americans started wearing Nike Tech tracksuits, was honestly quite embarrassing, and I think it actually might have made him lose the interest of a few Americans that were just about to take him seriously.
I'm humble in it, but at the same time, I like to think that man put like a lot of man onto the Nike Tech thing. You see the influence even in like America, people be rocking the text like it's like they're us.
Now, I personally think that a British rapper could potentially take the #1 spot on the Billboard charts, but the question is, will it be Central Cee, or will somebody else take the formula and perfect it even further? He's going to need to evolve if he wishes to keep climbing, and with another album still outstanding in his insane £25 million deal with Columbia, we're certainly going to be seeing him try. So, huge congratulations to Central Cee for doing what very few rappers have been able to do, but the story isn't over yet. He still hasn't quite achieved greatness. For now, Tiny Temper still holds the records for the biggest debut of a UK rap album and the highest charting position for a UK rapper on the US Billboard charts at #12. As a fan, I'll continue watching Central Cee closely, and I'll be rooting for him to break those records. Because at this point, if anyone's going to do it, it's probably him. Anyway, I hope you found that video interesting. Thank you so much for watching. Peace out.